Welcome back to episode 211 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Phil. How's it going, Phil? I'm here with Louie. No, I just pass over you, Phil, every time to make you squirm because I know you hate that. What's going on, boys? How are we doing? Louie, how are you?
Wonderful. How are you, boys?
Wow, you said you started the show with a 6-word sentence. I'm proud of you, Louie. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Phil, how are
Phil's
you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm
right.
excellent. Ready to rock and roll.
So Troy's still on vacation. He'll be back for Monday's show. Haven't heard from him a lot, which I think is a good thing. Get into that in a minute. He did get stung by a wasp, though, in an elevator at the very start of his vacation. So we were laughing at him about that. Can't wait to hear about all the exploits and adventures. I'm sure he's been to record stores and card shops galore because not really an ocean guy, but I'm sure he's having a good time. And yeah, we'll hear see. I'm sure he bought weird, like random things about X-Files or something like that. Wouldn't you say, Louis, isn't that up Troy's alley there?
Something along those lines. Yeah, I guarantee you he didn't come back with any hockey cards if he bought anything.
He had a little bit of a false start, so I got to do it.
That was another Baba Louie hobby hot take.
Yeah, so what I'm doing in the back of my head there is I'm trying to process on one of our chats there, where he was looking at all that crazy comic stuff before, and I was wondering if he'd find any of that stuff. But yeah, there won't be hockey coming home with him for sure.
He looks like he would be a metal detector kind of guy with fanny pack, no shirt on. You know? Metal.
Fired.
Go ahead, babe. I'm gonna catch you back at the hotel. I gotta dig here.
I am glad though he got a little bit of time off. And one of the things I wanted to ask you guys about is just your kind of thoughts so far about being on this show, this train wreck that we call the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast, as opposed to being a listener or watcher. It's a little bit of work, to put it mildly, and so for him to get time off to step away is a little bit of a good thing. But yeah, I don't know who wants to start first. Probably won't be Louis, but Phil, if that's you, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anything surprise you about kind of seeing how the sausage is made, I guess?
It is peeling back the curtain was pretty wild. I thought, well, no, I knew you and Troy put a little bit of work in, but I didn't know you put a lot of work in. It's the show notes, the preparation, just being punctual and out of respect for your partner twice a week. It's wild. Like we all work today. We have to plan a time to record, and we had a few adjustments on the fly we had to make, and it added a little panic to my day. But here we are, and after a lot, good things come after hard work. So I'm very, very proud to be on this show, and I absolutely respect the hard work you and Troy have done to get this show here. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. What about you, Louis? Is there more moving parts than you thought there was?
The process behind the scenes that people don't understand, getting the show together, getting what you're going to talk about, staying relevant with topics, having something to talk about with those topics, and then having, with me taking over these images when Troy's gone, the background, doing all the pictures, moving that stuff along. It's a big ship to move. And like Phil said, there's a lot of moving pieces. We had to shift, sometimes around today to record. I kind of skipped out of work early because I knew there were some things we needed to get done. And it takes a village, is what I'm finding out, to make something like this. And I like this side of it, to be honest with you. It's good.
Proud of you, Louis, for skipping out on your paying job to work on the job that pays you literally nothing. So very smart move on your part. And yeah, I mean, hopefully you're having fun. We think it's a lot of fun too, but it's kind of it is a very chaotic and like I said, I hope you guys are having a lot of fun. But we are seeing momentum in some areas, and so wanted to briefly mention a couple things before we get started. Our show's always been an audio show first. I think, Phil, that's one of the first things I said to you when we talked about coming on, is for our first year plus, we didn't post any video of our show. And part of that was Troy and I wanted to get, well, if you say get good at the audio part first, it implies you're good. We wanted to get somewhere in like 100 miles from competent, maybe, is the way I'll put it, to that. And so we wanted to get that aspect down first.
You wanted to get seasoned. You wanted to be seasoned.
Seasoned. There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
And so less than a year ago now, we really started in earnest on YouTube, and we've had a lot of momentum. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, would ask you to do that. And if you're watching, maybe throw us a like, right? Like and subscribe, right? Does that make me a YouTuber now? I say like and subscribe. Do I have to
Now
say
you
that?
got
Like
it.
No, you have to say smash that like button.
smash that like button.
Smash
No,
that like button.
but it's exposed our show to a whole new audience, and so very, very grateful for that. And just wanted to, I don't know, maybe bring that up. Last thing is, this is a little bit of a new segment. I can see the excitement on Louis' face because he knows what's coming.
I do.
So we're introducing meme of the show.
Oh.
We've been getting a number of show related memes sent our way lately. So when the good ones come in right off the top, like we're doing right now, we're going to share these in our meme of the show segment. And so to kick off what I think someday might be a Pulitzer Prize winning segment, we got to go with the current meme, which after our last show, our very own Baba Louie got some very nice feedback from a number of people that enjoyed what we'll call the process of him coming out of his shell. And then really our king of memes so far, Bobby at 86 Collectibles.
Bobby.
He came up with this little meme here, which I think is brilliant. I love it. Sorry if you're listening. You got to come to YouTube and see the. Now I'm distracted because Phil's got his hairless cat in his hands.
Sorry, Josh. I'm sorry.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not
Audio only.
audio only. So here's our meme of the show: Louis, Baba Louis, coming out of his shell. I think you should frame this, Louis, and hang it up in your living room.
I could get it behind me here somewhere. I got room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're back with your other environment again. Okay. Nice to see you there. So, if any of you are the memeing type and you want to send us a meme of the show that we might just feature, even on our next episode, please send it to us via Discord or social media or something like that.
Or not
Let's
at
see.
all.
Or not at all.
Louis loves memes of Louis. And so, please do those. It makes his day. Last thing. The Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a Patreon podcast. What that means is we rely on supportive listeners like yourself to help us cover our show expenses, produce more and what we hope is better hockey card content, and then fund initiatives, even in a small way to grow the hockey hobby. You can support us through Patreon. It's as little as $5 a month. You can be one of our first 199 supporters. We're probably getting to the end of that soon. Should check. And also get exclusive access to the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server and chat with everybody there on a daily basis. Very easy to do. Go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patron link at the top of the page. Or if you want to go just to the Patreon website directly, it's patreon.com, where you can search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. There's a link in the show description if you're listening to us on a podcast app or even watching us on YouTube. And then finally, there's a link in the YouTube and TikTok profiles as well. We do have one new Patreon member, supporter of our show. Since our last episode, Thorson Collectibles joined our $199 support level tier. Thank you very much. We appreciate you, and you really help make our show possible. All right, Baba Louie, you excited? You ready for the game plan? This is now.
I love the game plan.
Okay.
I love the game plan. All right, so let's dive into it. First, we'll start by discussing the biggest threats currently facing the hockey hobby, or the hobby in general. Next, we're going to move on to hobby news. After that, we then recorded an interview with Jeffrey Zucker from the movie The Late Game. After the interview, we'll then move on to new product releases. Next up is the Fanatics Weekly Preview, and then finally concluding with personal pickups.
Good job, Baba Louie.
Thank you, sir.
Last show, we got a lot of great feedback regarding our discussion about the whole CT scanning thing and what the potential threat that could be to the hobby. And it made me think of that it had been a while, guys, where we had maybe a big picture conversation about, well, what are the biggest threats that face the hobby? And I wanted to talk about that today and do it in a way that isn't sky is falling or Debbie Downer. I'm not that person at all. I'm much more I know I've gotten a lot of conversations with listeners where I know I frustrate them because I'm just more optimistic than I am pessimistic. But that doesn't mean that there aren't real issues or real threats that are affecting the hobby. And so my hope today is that we can kind of list out what we think some of those threats are, have a good conversation around them. And then what is super interesting is a day or so ago, we did an Instagram story asking people in the hobby, well, what do you think the biggest threats are facing the hobby? And we got tons of response. And we asked Discord as well. I was overwhelmed with how many people chimed in. And so I think we'll have a great discussion around that. And then finally, before we kind of get into the threats, what I think our plan will be for our next show is to balance this out and talk about maybe what take the glass half full perspective and talk about what we think maybe some of the biggest opportunities are for the hobby or reasons to be optimistic. Sound good?
Sounds
Sounds
You on
good.
board, Phil?
No,
Okay.
no, I was doing the sign language while you were talking.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, are
Get
you
on
going
the
to be our
boat,
sign
Phil.
language interpreter?
No, I was just doing my own versions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My wife is an interpreter. Maybe that's something that would help our
Really?
ratings if she did. Well, she went to school for it and then did it for like a couple years and then didn't like it, but she still knows sign language, of course.
Put Mrs. Madigan up in the corner there. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Just up
And
in the
she could,
corner.
we could, a whole new audience through like,
Yeah.
it'd be fun. Okay. So these are, I'm going to start with my 5 biggest threats, and you guys are going to tell me what you think about them, if you agree, disagree, so on and so forth. So where I started in looking at this is really the idea of conglomeration or lack of competition. And like anything we do, try not to keep it personal here, but try to take really that truly that big picture perspective. And when we saw the pandemic kind of sports card boom, one of the results of that was the business world, which I think largely had written off our hobby as an industry, really started to take a look because of the money that was being spent. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. This might be an actual real industry with a market and something that we might want to take a little bit more seriously. A lot of good has come with that. And the hobby has benefited from it, but it also creates, I think, some threats too. So we've seen corporations, whether it be like collectors or Fanatics or eBay, call them like the 800-pound gorillas of the hobby that now have looked at it as a area of growth opportunity. And one of the things that you learn about big businesses versus small businesses, big businesses grow by acquiring an acquisition. A company like Fanatics can't add enough meaningful revenue by starting a little startup venture and having to do $1,000 in sales the first month. They need to buy something that already has an existing revenue stream. And that's just the way capitalism, I guess, works. So they acquire. And we've seen lots of acquisitions in the past 3 years, and that has consolidated power. And I think that potential threats come in 2 ways from the consolidation of power. So there's the fear that any one organization will have too much influence and maybe call it the ability to bend the hobby at their will. And even if it's not to the benefit of collectors, and then a lack of competition can certainly stifle innovation. So whether we're talking about exclusive licensing agreements, which again needs to be pointed out is not the fault of Upper Deck or Fanatics, because the
Correct.
leagues make that decisions. They're
Yep.
the ones that said we only want one license holder. So that's where you have to hold the leagues accountable to that. Or a company like Collectors, where we mentioned on our last show when we were looking at the July grading recap, where 95% of all sports cards that were graded last month were in a slab owned by collectors. Again, though, what we talked about last week too, or last show too, these are willingly sent by collectors. Nobody was forced to send their brand, but it does create that environment where you have a lot of power with just a few entities. And I think the risk is people leave the hobby if they feel like there's not an even playing field and any one influence gets too much bigger, and it becomes a potential lack of checks and balances, right? And now that doesn't mean that the companies have ill intention or are bad actors or haven't even done good. With the You can make the argument for all the companies that having that exclusive license has benefited the hobby in certain ways, but I think it's that scary aspect of where's the checks and balances? Do they have too much influence? There's not something that can check them if they get out of line that people are fearful of and could be perceived as a threat to the hobby. So, what do you think about that as a threat? We'll start with you, Phil.
Very good. That would not be. Are these in sequential order for you? Like, is this the most?
No,
No. Okay.
no.
Okay. So, yeah, lack of competition would be kind of middle for me. The biggest point I'd like to make to jump on your point was the 90% collectors was SGC and PSA. That makes me in this topic, lack of competition. The thing that makes me the most nervous is that they can, like you said, steer the hobby a certain way. I'll put my little tinfoil hat on. Trimming and miscut cards is such a main topic that we all bring up every day in our hobby life. What's to say some new director at Collectors can't really hammer home how many cards are trimmed all the time, how many cards are miscut? Oh my goodness, it's such a big problem. You really need companies like us to tell you if it's trimmed or not. That makes me terrified, because I consider my eye, and I can even, here's a better one. I have a lot of friends that have 30-40 years pedigree in the hobby. I trust them much more than any grader at PSA, but they're creating an environment, an ecosystem where they're the authority. How many times are we seeing bad autographs that get authenticated from PSA and they go through, and we know they're not, right? How many? There's some bad ones out there. So I don't like that. I wish there was a better competition for grading. Yeah.
What do you do about that though? Because if I'm going to play devil's advocate, maybe a minute
do
for
it,
you,
do
Phil,
it. Yeah.
is if you're collectors and you're a business and a grading company, you want to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to, again, nobody's forced to send their cards. 95% of the graded cards could have gone to Beckett last month, or CGC, or Tag, or KSA, or Mint, or whatever company you can think of, right?
Yeah.
And so it's people willingly sending their cards to these companies. And what do you expect PSA or collectors to do, to say, oh my gosh, we're being too successful, we're gonna turn down your submissions? And so it's probably, I just don't know how you fix it, I guess.
I don't have a
is my
solution. I have no solution to this problem. I just don't like the way it's trending. Every year, more and more. Oh, that looks trimmed. Oh, that's miscut. Oh, PSA. How many times is PSA sending back mistrimmed card? And they're not. They're on new cards. Come on, man. I just think they created this environment of fear and paranoia because it works. It works completely. 100%. Everybody, even in our group, even in our very close group, there's a few of us. You think this is trimmed? You think this is trimmed? I don't think I'll buy a Gretzky all day long if PSA says it was trimmed. I'll buy it for $400. I'll buy them all.
Well, so okay, going on the fear of paranoia. If we got the fear of paranoia on a card coming back that's trimmed from, PSA or something, then why are we still? I mean, why are people consistently still sending cards PSA's way, other than it's the greatest return?
Well, that's it.
Price for
That's
you.
it, Louis. Money talks, man. Cash is king, baby.
Here's one thing I've never believed in this hobby, and this might be a controversial statement, but even the most collectory of collectory people that I love the hobby for altruistic reasons. I never look up values. I never care about values. I'll never sell anything. They really care about values, right? It may not be their big motivator, but I don't believe for a second that because all the people that say that tend to want to collect the most valuable cards.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's human nature. I'm not dogging anyone for that. It's, why does everyone want a Rolex and nobody cares about a Timex? Right.
Josh,
none of us are watch experts.
I'm a hypocrite, man. I'm a total hypocrite. I'm pretty much 80% what you just described. I like medium to higher end cards. I always say I don't know what the comp is, but I actually don't know what the comp is. But I'm not just going to give my card away if I'm trying to get a good deal on a trade. Of course I care. All the cards I bought, 2 years ago, they're all down. That doesn't make me feel good. If I break my leg tomorrow and I can't cut another tree down, I need to liquidate. Why'd I put my money in cards?
And there has to be some sort of psychological part of that. of why you appreciate the car. It's the same reason why people appreciate Ferraris, right? Is that you can't deny the influence of perceived value and how other people hold that in esteem, right? It's not maybe the dollar amount per se, but by being valuable, it holds it at a higher level and more people desire it. So by you owning that card, it gives you something that you take satisfaction out of because you know it's desired by others.
It elevates my status.
Yeah,
Right?
probably.
It strokes my
All of us.
ego. Yeah, it makes my pride feel better. I mean, there's
course.
good pride and bad pride, and it's just a piece of cardboard. But when Louis like, oh my God, Phil, where'd you get that? I'm like, well, Louis, let me tell you a little story. Like, I feel good. I feel good about that.
So the question is again, how is this a threat and what can be done and who should do something about it? And what I would say is that probably the biggest opportunity to mitigate what you're talking about, Phil, is that having faith in the market, that the market will correct, just like it did with Beckett a
Yep.
number of years ago. If PSA falters to a significant enough of a degree to the stuff you're talking about, then people would lose faith in the accuracy of the grading and would lose faith in the value and look for an alternative that they feel more confident in, right?
Right, but that's humans are silly. We're very, very silly people. Loud, the shiny new thing always wins. The PSA 10 from Card Flip Bro, he's gonna advertise that and shine it up and everything. And most collectors are quiet. Most collectors, like they don't talk too much. They have their checklists, and I don't know. I don't have the solutions, but it's definitely. I just don't like the way it's going. I don't like the way it's going. It's I don't have the
And
answer.
I don't think, in the big scheme of things, I don't think, since PSA was a topic here, I don't think they're bad at what they do, but there's so many things that we see that get missed, or you hear all the, well, I'll just crack it and send it back and we'll get a 10 this time.
I would argue they're pretty good at what they do because they grade 1.3 million cards per month.
Well,
Yeah,
that's what I
logistics.
said. They're good at what they do, but and they're going to have mistakes with that many cards. I just want more transparency out of them. We see it within our group. We see so many cards that should be this and are this and what we think. I mean,
It's a game.
I don't think I'm that blind when I.
Well, that gets back to competition where you need an innovator to come into the market to address some of the problems or perceived problems that exist with the leading company, and which either forces the leading company to adapt and change and improve their product, or they go away and they're no longer the leader anymore, right? And so people were hopeful, I think, with Tag, and
Right.
who knows operationally if they can get to 1 million cards a month. I mean, that's a big, because it's just like with Amazon, right? To some degree, when you're grading 1.2 million cards a month, that's a logistics company. That's a huge logistical. Think of all that's 1 million packages coming in and out. That's a process of at scale that has to be efficient, and that's a big challenge.
So do you think they're putting all their
Go ahead.
resources? Do you think they're putting all their resources in their best product and training their graders, or do you think they're putting their top priority of resources into the machine of logistics to make sure that turnover is happening? I'm gonna guess B.
Yeah, well, what I'm guessing what happened was that after the pandemic, the demand for their services grew so dramatically that they're trying to keep up with demand.
As they should,
And
right?
All right, well, let's move on because we got a lot to get to. So the next, I think, threat that I see as maybe facing the hobby is prices. And here's another one, I guess, where if you're a true free market person, then maybe you don't worry about this so much, right? Because you can say, well, we vote with our wallets, and if the boxes get too expensive, then you'd expect the marketplace to react and people will stop buying them, and then they'll sit on shelves and prices will come down. I think, though, where this is a threat is it creates, with the higher box prices get, and it's new for us in the hockey hobby, we're not basketball collectors or football collectors, is that the real risk of creating barriers to entry and participation in the hobby, right? And this kind of question of, is it good, or not even do we want or not want, is it good for the growth prospects of the hobby to become elitist, right? Could long-term growth potential for the hobby be diminished if a decent box of card is $300 or $400? And I know that, again, people say, well, $400 for a box is like a dream for a football and basketball collector, but we know hockey is a lot smaller of a community, and to grow our collector base, box prices can't outpace the growth of the community and the growth of collectors. And then the thing I'll add to this before I get your guys' comments is another aspect of it. I think we're seeing this with a lot of 2023 products, is that if box prices increase, the value opportunity of the cards inside the box have to stay at least somewhat proportional to the price. And I'm not sure the exact percentage or ratio that it should be, but if you're going to buy a $400 box of hockey cards, what's the reasonable expectation of value that you should think on average that you get out of that box, right? Because if on average people pull $80 of cards or $60 in cards out of a $400 box, uh, are you as a consumer, are you just going to keep buying $400 boxes over and over again? Feels a
Nope.
little bit like you're flushing your money away. And I feel like it's kind of getting to the point where, again, with these 2023-24 products, if you pull a Connor Bedard, you're golden. If you don't, you're sunk. And he's not in every box. I was looking at SPx cases today. They had opened 8 boxes in a case before they hit any Connor Bedard.
That's not good.
Yep.
Well, there's 5 cards in a box, so it makes sense, right? So I think that finding that balance in pricing where you can still have the opportunity to grow is really important. But I don't know, does that resonate with you guys or no?
Absolutely, it does. Because okay, what did you pay? I know you ran out the other day. You got a box of SPX, right?
Yeah, 180 bucks.
180
Ooh.
bucks.
I don't think I got $40 in cards.
Ouch.
So every card in that box is worth 36 bucks, huh?
Yeah, $36 is the cost of a card. So it gets really expensive. And again, this isn't about every box you should make money on, because we know
No.
that that's not the case. But there has to be like a minimum reasonable expectation of, and it's not, again, let's not get too hung up on the money, but the money is parallel to the idea that, you know, typically a cool card, something that's desired, something you would want, is going to be more valuable. When you get a $2 rookie auto out of a $180 box and a couple of parallels out of 999, it just
Some
doesn't feel
shiny
like you're getting your value
your
there.
value.
And
Yep.
but the prices have increased so much that because of Bedard, right? And so again, then I think about, well, what's the fear there, that if you're new to this and you're not like hooked and degenerate like we are, and you're like, well, why would I buy a $200 box if most people don't get anything for it?
Right. You don't want to focus on the money, but I have that to me is the biggest issue with this here. On box prices being so high, I'm not going to go, if there's something I want, I'm not going to buy the box. I'm going to go buy the card.
Yeah,
Because
it goes back to this whole money conversation, and where, right? Because if you didn't want value out of a box, then you should never open it. Because if you should say, well, I'm just going to be a collector and I'm just going to enjoy the cards, and you should be just as happy about getting a 25-cent base card as a $100 rookie auto, then why would I spend $200 on the box and go buy the 25-cent base card on eBay?
For the
Where-
experience. That's why you buy the box, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
I
that
don't
why
know.
I buy
What do you
the
think, Phil? Where do you think, have you been concerned at all about where rising prices have headed, or are you not?
It doesn't bother me much. I'm the guy that said people will vote with your wallet that you talked about in the beginning. I'm more of that cloth. But it does suck, this $400 Series 2 box. And it does suck how we know the margins are pretty big. And it does suck that a lot of people who just collect flagship probably skip this year or Series 2, maybe, you know?
Well, I know I largely did.
I did.
There you go. There you go.
What about you? Did you buy less because of
No,
the price?
no, and I buy a case every year of Series 1 and Series 2 to open with Hasselhoff, and we did not do that this year. And I'm poking my nose around, like seeing, so cheapest I've seen is like $369 on sale for the week, you know, but then it goes back to $399 at my LCS.
Mhm.
So it is it's unfortunate. It is. But you know, so I'd like to finish that thought. I just think it's a lagging indicator. If let's say 50% sales go down this year and Upper Deck's like, whoa, we need to pivot, we need to adjust, the prices will come down. It's just a bit of a lagging indicator, and it does suck, but people will vote with their wallets, and I think they are. How much Series 2 product is still out there? A boatload. A lot.
Yeah.
Right? A lot. So they'll figure it out. People stop buying, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, but they're not gonna
What? Stop
stop buying.
I know. I know. It's just like, who's buying? Every week I say it. Who's buying the Bedard cards? Who's buying these cases? I don't know. It's a breaker's market now, maybe. Maybe that's where they're all going.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right, the next one that I came up with is I call it bad actors.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a catch-all group. It's a bucket. We'll call it that. It's a group of people that I think will damage the hobby to benefit themselves at the expense of the rest of us. So it includes a whole laundry list of people: scammers, cheaters, unethical companies that, like the whole box scanning thing, right? That are willing to profit at the expense of others.
My ex-wife.
Ouch.
Sorry.
Swapping patches, creating fake comps, selling fake autos, selling fake slabs, breakers doing shady stuff with hits, breaking into card shops, stealing from card shows. We've had that. Weighing, it's not just scanning. We have people sitting at Walmart and Target with their scales, weighing packs and boxes, trying to identify hits. And there's just certain pockets of humanity, and certainly the hobby, where integrity is really low or doesn't exist. And again, the threat to me of this, if it's not checked and regulated and policed by I don't know who, is that when somebody gets burnt, especially if they're newer, it's a reason to say this is stupid and never want to
I'm done.
collect a card again, right? And so it's like the whole like fake patch thing. I would love to see somebody that can affect change step up and fix it. And I have like, and I'm sure there's a reason not to do it, but I have communicated this to Upper Deck. It's like, I don't understand those patches, why they don't use some sort of super glue to affix them to the card, where you would literally, to take that patch out, it could only destroy the card.
I like it.
Right. But we need somebody to kind of step up and fix some of these things, because if you're what was like the big ones is like Jake Ottinger, like I think Premier patches and flop Future Watch Auto patch, where if you were excited about Ottinger, a Dallas fan, and then you spend $500 on an RPA as like your first big hockey purchase, and then somebody says, oh, by the way, that's a fake patch, that card is worthless, is that going to make you want to continue in the hobby?
Right.
Probably not. And who knows like what percentage it is. We tend to maybe over magnify the impact of bad actors, but I just think it's worth bringing up, right? That it's something that has to be considered, and we have to continually, because people are not going to ever stop trying to outfox the fox and game the system. And so I think it's something you have to really commit yourself to doing. Where Phil, for you, where does this kind of category fall?
Number one. This is the biggest. This bothers me the most, because you don't understand something you wouldn't do. And sometimes when I see someone doing something that I wouldn't do, I have a hard time processing it, especially if it's of evil intentions. And it usually comes at you with a smile. It usually comes at new people in the hobby. But I also, the flip side of that coin is, just because we love our hobby, I don't want to go around policing things either. Like I kind of want to let the chips fall where they lie, and I'm a big, Darwinism guy. Like if the dog gets hit by a car, well, probably shouldn't have ran on the road, right? So I think sometimes people have to. I'm not saying I want someone to get ripped off, but that guy who bought the Ottinger patch probably learned a valuable lesson, and he can help the next person and educate them as well. Which brings me to this: education solves all of this. There's obviously outliers. If there's an impeccable like Ocean's 11 type of scam, all the power to you, man. You put your work in, that's good. But just quick nickel and dime, ripping people off here and there, doing fake comps on eBay, that cheeses me to no end. Can I give a quick example? There's a Parker's Champions Crosby 3-color patch, and there's a comp on there on eBay that someone did that's not real, and this is following me everywhere now because I found another one and the comp was thrown at me. I'm not using that as a comp because I know the people that bought it, and I know that bought it, and it's not real. And both of the eBay accounts have over 100 on them. They're not 0 or 1 accounts. So it is absolutely a terrifying place if you don't have your wits about you. And education fixes that, solves that. Not always, but most of the time. You need to protect yourself. Ask questions. We're on a Gong Show that Josh says all the time. Send in your questions. Send in. There's no silly questions. If we protect each other, the society will police itself. Our hobby will police itself. I firmly believe
that Crosby comp is not legitimate?
Ottawa has a very small community. Yeah.
Okay. So it's a grapevine thing.
It's not hearsay. It's just a dirty situation. It's a dirty, and they're all over the place. That's why I'm not a big comps guy. Oh, well, it's verified in Terapeak. Oh, well, I'm probably, that helps, but if I'm go with my gut feeling. I go with my moral compass and how I'm feeling on the inside.
Yeah, people that stand on that soapbox are idiots.
Yeah, morons.
What about you, Louis? Does the whole nefarious actors, does that bother you? Do you think that is a big threat to the hobby?
I think they're a threat to the hobby, but I have had my bad experiences in it too, and I learned from them. The whole saying, you got to fall down and get back up, dust yourself off and do it again. You learn something from it. I don't like that there's some people out there that make the hobby and purchasing seem like such a big and easy thing, and you can have this and this and this, which that's only for select few, I would say. Not everybody can go out there and drop thousands of dollars at shows and stuff like that.
What do you mean, Louis? Like those videos were like, I spent $40K and let me show you how I did it. Like those kind of things.
Yeah. I really don't think that does anybody any good.
No.
But like Phil, I think you said it, I'm busy watching out for myself and my friends and what we do. I don't want to police everything. The worst one for me is fake auto. It wasn't Crosby another big fake auto?
Patch,
one of his cup cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, fake patches, and the fake auto thing is a bummer. I think though, like what you guys are talking about, sort of the narrative that get rich quick in the sports card hobby.
Yeah.
As the market has corrected itself from the pandemic, a lot of that content has gone away.
Yeah.
Because the cards aren't going up in value. So it only works if everything goes up in value to say, I spent 10,000 and had $1 million 4 days later.
Yeah, I know. They're like mosquitoes, just shoo away.
Right. But somebody new could see that still in an older video and be like, oh, really?
We need to let them. We need to let them. This policing your neighbor, like, oh, you want your, I won't go there, but you worry about yourself, worry about your family, worry about your friends. Charity starts at home. If we just keep the wits about us, if you don't know something, research it. Take your time. There's the card will be there tomorrow, and if it's not, wasn't meant to be. Sure. Education solves all of this, and yeah, that's about it.
Let's go to the next threat. This one's a big one for me, and I don't know if you guys will feel the same, but I worry about what I'm calling production imbalance. And let me explain that. Like I said, it's a tough one. I don't even envy Upper Deck in this regard as the licensed hockey manufacturer. Balancing the growth of the hobby and demand for hits and trying to deliver value and rising box prices, which we already talked about, feels to me like a very small tightrope to balance on. The oft referenced junk wax era is a result of vast overproduction that was experienced, of course, in the early 90s based on a misjudged sales opportunity. Like, oh my gosh, the market's exploding. Let's let's flood the market with product. And what happens is when you do that and you find out there's less demand than supply, then the market kind of crashes, right? Because prices go down in order to balance out the supply demand curve if you're an economist. Now, I don't think there's going to be another 1990 Pro Set sort of era like the junk wax era where you have millions of base cards. But what we could see or could be seeing is an overproduction of the amount of cards, like going back to the variety that are being produced by player. Hence the term that we kind of coined on our show, the junk variety era. And we've already spelled this out. I'm not going to rehash it completely, but players had one or two rookies going back to the vintage days and pre-war days. Then a handful in the early 90s. Crosby and Ovechkin had a few hundred cards. McDavid had just over 600 rookie cards. And now Connor Bedard's going to likely have over 1,300 cards. So I have to ask, like where is this going? Will we hit a point where there's too many? Will Macklin Celebrini have 1,600 different rookie cards? Will Gavin McKenna have 2,000? I don't know. Are there too many sets? And how does Upper Deck balance? And I say Upper Deck not to challenge them directly, but whoever the manufacturer is, and they're the license holder, so Upper Deck, I guess. How do they balance making products and boxes interesting without flooding the market with endless parallels and meaningless numbered cards, while if the hobby is growing, keeping up with demand? Like I said, not an easy problem to point out, but a tough one to solve. And the threat is if the strategy falters like it did in the junk wax era, it can be very damaging for a very long time to the market. What do you think of that, Phil?
Let's take MVP. How much does it cost? Like, what's the cost to Upper Deck for a box of MVP? Like $2.10? Like, so why? I'm just wondering if it's not expensive.
You're taking like fixed cost of goods, right? So let's get really technical on a company financials where the cost to actually make the product, but it's probably a little bit unfair because you have R&D costs, design costs, shipping costs, and you have sales costs, all this sort of stuff. So I would assume that they make, and this is a total, they've never told us, 50% margins. That would be reasonable, I would think.
So to me, there's no way every year they sell out of MVP. I'm just picking the bottom one, right? But they keep making MVP. So that whatever formula is there, I mean, if I was the owner of Upper Deck or the COO or whatever in their boardroom, I would throw everything at the wall if I can afford it, and whatever sticks, I would do again, get rid of what doesn't. If they got enough money, if your margins are big enough, you can make a lot of mistakes and just keep on going. So why?
But how does that affect the market though? Because that may not affect their balance sheet.
Oh, it sucks for us.
As much as it could. Like, could we hit a point where the Bedard market's degraded just because there's so many cards out there and there's so many different cards that people don't even really understand? Well, what's a good Bedard rookie versus a average Bedard rookie versus a junky Bedard rookie? However you define those, it's just really complicated now when you have boxes coming out every week, and here's the Bedard out of $9.99, $7.99, $5.99, $2.99.
Yeah, but I'm not paying attention. Like, are you paying attention to those? I'm not. No one is. I think the people that are, I don't know. Like, who are these people buying weird SPx?
You're a guy that's done this for a long time, and you're savvy as a result of your experience.
So you think there's people out there just gobbling up every box this year because Bedard's in it, and they've been collecting for about a year and a half, and there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and they're banking on.
Yeah, that's crazy. What? I haven't met them. Maybe they're listening. Stop buying the boxes.
And they're banking on the fact that he pans out into this great talent. And that's one of the things about the junk wax era, right? You have amazing players, some of those legendary players in our game. You have Jaromir Jagr, who I love,
Yeah.
who doesn't have a rookie card worth anything as a result.
It's got great flow, though. Great flow.
Great fun. What do you think about this, Louis? Are you worried about just the amount of cards being produced per player and choices and all that sort of stuff?
I'm not worried about the amount of sets, I guess, to be honest. I am more worried about all the parallels that are in these sets and the inserts. You know, I got a green, blue, a blue, green, a yellow, red, a red, orange, a this, that, and the other thing. And then, like you said, the 1 out of 10, 20, 25, 100, it's just like, there's too much, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and does it make it less special? But they're just trying to. But then here's where we talk on both sides of our mouths that we want boxes with more hits. If a case comes with 12 boxes and it's a Connor Bedard rookie year and 2 of the 12 boxes have any Bedard cards, people freak out because of that too.
Well, okay, so I was watching some breaks today, and here's where I go with that. The last month or two, Bedard's
Yep.
left and right, breaking boxes. Bedard. Now SPX is out and nobody's hitting Bedard. So at first they were like, "Oh my god, there's so many Bedard cards," and now we're not hitting them out of this next one. And people are like, "Well, where are all the Bedards?" Well, what do you want? Do you want a bajillion of them, or do you want them to be a little more scarce?
That's the balance, right? Is that people want both. they want them to be, everybody wants to get one, but you all want it to be super rare, right? So it's an unattainable sort of situation for
Paradox.
upper deck, right? They can't do that. And then the last one that I picked before we get to everybody's amazing feedback is, and I think for me this is the biggest one, is the sort of economy or macro environment. Hits home probably this week. So the economy is a huge factor, I think, in the sports card market. You need lots of disposable money to fuel this hobby. As essential as it feels at time to collect hockey cards, we'd all be fine without it, right? The other day was 2 days ago, the worst day in the US stock market since 2022. We have another kind of crazy election year here going on, and that creates a lot of uncertainty and fear. We've had inflation, which has been the huge problems for the last couple of years. You have the job market, which is worrying some people, and all of these affect, I think, two things. A, the money left over in accounts once the bills are paid. I don't know what it's like for you, Phil, but Louis can attest to this too. The difference in our grocery bills here in Minnesota in the last 2 years is it's like doubled what it costs here to go to the grocery store.
I live
And
in a very expensive city, and we're over double, that's for sure. Like a block of cheese is $11.99 to toilet paper. It's just insane. It's like on sale, $29.99. I'm like, awesome. I'll just use my t-shirt. It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty crazy. It's not good.
And I'm assuming, Louis, you felt that too, right? Where just everyday expenses have gone, that there's just less disposable income and less money as a responsible adult that you have to spend on fun hobbies like collecting cards.
Right. Yep. That's exactly it. You know, you and me, 2 kids at home, you know, feeding 4 mouths and pets, the food, everything's gone up. So, you know, for me, yeah, it's terrible. The economy's killing it for me because I have to throw more money at other things before I can play cards.
And then I think the other factor again on the economy is the whole confidence thing, and that, you know, value in this hobby in of itself is perceptive. When it comes to discretionary spending of any kind of thing or experience, that confidence plays such a role. And all those things I listed, from the election to the stock market to inflation, I think it just makes people think, it's like, oh, if I've got an extra $500 right now, do I buy that box of cards, or do I leave it in my savings account being worried about what's coming next? And
That's a good point,
and
Josh.
so in times where where in situations like this, it takes money out of the hobby, where when the economy is rolling, people are like, oh, good times are rolling. So I'll just spend that $500 thinking that 1,000 more is coming.
Right.
So, and that's why to me, I think that in the economy is probably the biggest factor. But I don't know, how much do you think it affects the hobby in your guys' perspective?
It's a bit. I'm not the best to ask because I'm a bit of a cowboy. I live in my own head. I have my own economy in my mind. So I don't. I
Probably
definitely
a
don't see it.
scary place.
Yeah, it is like an amusement park. I don't see as my LCS is busy. I see a lot of the Magic, the games really taken off now. Like that is even bigger than the cards in my area. But I don't see too many people buying cup boxes, and I don't see a lot of guys at the counter just ripping wax like crazy people as much as I did a couple years ago. So it's got to be affecting it.
Before we get to everybody else, this is the homework I did. Are there any kind of threats that you guys are really concerned about that weren't in the 5 that I mentioned that you want to bring up? Or should we roll into people's feedback?
No, I'm good. I thought
Mhm.
those were our 5 points. I thought we all
Okay.
thought of that together.
Yeah, we did. I don't know.
Oh,
I just
okay.
want to make sure.
Yeah, I didn't think of anything else.
All right. Well, as I mentioned a couple times now, we asked you guys your thoughts on the matter via social media and via our Discord. Got a crazy amount of feedback, so I want to thank everybody for chiming in. Here's just some of the points. I'm just going to start reading them off that you guys made. And by you guys, I mean listener land and watcher land out there. And some of them I think are kind of funny, and some of them are a little off the wall, and then a lot of them kind of hit the points that we've already made. So one person said Gretzky doing something insanely bad where people start dumping him. So this must be like a Wander Franco type situation. Now, I think the likelihood of that is minuscule to nothing, but that would be crazy. Like if all of a sudden like Gretzky's in jail
Yeah.
and he did something horrendous and his cards became kryptonite. That probably would have a big effect on the hobby.
He starts signing his cards, Mario Lemieux. He's a hobby disruptor.
So that's probably a pretty far-fetched one, but here's one that I think is worth maybe talking about for a second or two. What do you think the total impact on the hobby could be of Bedard not living up to expectations? And or is that just there's the Alexander Dags now, Yakupovs, that the
I
hobby
lived
just
it.
moves on.
I lived the Dag thing. Yeah, he dropped like a rock. It'd be funny if Bedard didn't amount to anything. I mean, okay, funny for this show purposes. I don't want another man's career to take a tank, but for comedy purposes, it would be hilarious if he busted like Dag. We know he won't, because from a hobby point of view, then what happens? Then it's confirmed. Junk wax variety. Am I saying that right, Josh?
Junk variety.
Junk
variety. With the program.
Variety era. Yeah. So that would seal that deal. It'd be pretty comical. Yeah. He better be good, man. He better be up there with McDavid status. That's
I think the hobby would survive that. It would hurt a little bit, but that's just the nature of prospecting, right? And the one thing about the current prices, like we just posted his first Young Guns acetate went for $8,000 US raw.
That was cheap.
Is that to sustain these levels, everything has to go perfect. And when was the last time things in your life went perfect?
It's been a while. I was a kid, didn't have bills.
Okay. Somebody said shipping rates. I think they're pandering to you, Phil, that they say shipping rates are, I'm assuming you agree with that, a threat to that. Another person mentioned repacks, and I thought this one was interesting. I don't know if I really see repacks as a...
I like repacks.
Oh, you do?
Well, I don't buy them, but I think they're good for the hobby if they're done with full transparent. I would love, that's what I want to do. Loud's packs. I would give full transparency. I made $150 on these 100 cards. Here's my website. Here's what it cost. I buy my cards from GP Sports. I buy them from Grant. He gives me the receipt. I scan the receipt. I post it. I'll say, what if I want to make $200? Everybody wins, and I make $200, and I keep all the Sens cards. I think that's fantastic, but no one's doing that.
I think if you post the complete checklist, so there's no surprise, like every card in the repack, so people have complete understanding of what the top end is and what the floor is, then I don't see a problem with it. What do you think about repacks, Louis? Are they a threat?
Not if we go on that route. There has to be transparency on what's in them. I haven't seen enough of it. Right now I don't like them.
Yeah.
So right now I don't think they hurt or are hurting.
I think it's a
Sure.
great opportunity for I just don't think someone's done it right. And I think there's a model out there. I would love to do that. Absolutely. Even breaks, I think right up there. Breaks done well. It's great for everybody. Everybody wins if they're done
No,
with full transparency.
right. And
Full.
yes, correct. And no matter what, you're still going to have the bad egg in a repack person and a bad egg in a breaker. It's going to make everybody look bad.
Okay, so Louis, let me throw you this. Let's say I have $50,000 and I want to start a business. Josh said yes, and I need a third partner, and it's you. Do you think me and Josh would be nefarious intentions, hidden agendas?
There wouldn't be any hidden agendas.
Exactly, right? So there's other people like us. There's
Right.
tons of them.
Right.
Yeah. I hope so.
We're starting a business. I'm excited. What are we doing?
I want to do something. I don't know.
Okay, that's cool.
Well, Phil's
Okay,
got
now-
the 50 grand. I'm in.
I'm working on it.
A couple people mentioned EPAC, and this one's like really interesting to me because coming off of our last show where we talked about scanners, so we have people responding to hobby threats saying that EPAC is kind of a threat to the whole hobby and the whole ecosystem, and then we've got like half the people saying maybe EPAC is the solution to the whole card scanning thing, where because it is kind of, if you like we talked about, if you had to worry about a box you're buying, has this been scanned, and is it, people know that there's no hits in there or anything like that, you wouldn't necessarily have that problem with EPAC, would you? Probably not, right? And so that one was really fascinating to me, and I think what I've learned more than almost anything in the last few months is since we had the episode where we talked to the guy who pulled the 101 checklist Bedard Young Guns off EPAC. It's been a very polarizing topic. We've heard a lot of people that love it and a lot of people that can't stand it. Where do you guys fall on EPAC as a threat?
I don't know enough about it, honestly, to even say it's a threat. I've never done it, looked into it, or anything. So,
What about you, Phil?
This is my official olive branch to the EPAC community.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Parker's Champions was released on EPAC, and the bane of my existence, that program. But I was wrong. I'm sorry, EPAC people. Ben Barry, he's a guy on there. He was very, very helpful, and it has its uses. I don't like EPAC, but I think it's very useful. I think once the website gets a little quicker, I think it has a beautiful place in our hobby. I narrowed down what upsets me about them. It's that our hobby's an ecosystem. They're a mini ecosystem in the hobby. So they're not the best on comps and agendas like that, but they're a great group of people with heavily overpriced cards or super underpriced. There's no in the middle. No one's in the middle. And anyway, my olive branch to you guys: you work hard, you spend lots of money. They probably spend the most money in the hobby by far.
Yeah.
Yeah, big time.
This is fascinating. Now that something that you want is on EPAC, you're kissing their butts. Like,
no, I'm not kidding. No, I'm not kissing their butts.
Louis,
I still think they're basement dwellers. I still think they need to go play some sports. But I see a bigger use for EPAC and their community. For all the trash for all the shade I've thrown on them, nobody has really come after me, and they took the high road, and I thank them very, very much. And a big shout out to Ben Barry. He's a moderator on Facebook, and he really helped me out. And I even made fun of him last year. He didn't even bring it up, and I'm sorry, Ben. And thank you. You're a stand-up guy.
I think Phil's in love with EPAC.
No, I'm not. Let's move on. We have an interview to get to.
Okay. All right, here's a kind of a group, because we got so much feedback that we're gonna have to go a little bit faster. But I'm just gonna rip through all of these and get your guys' feedback. That I kind of grouped this whole bunch together. I think the price of products, it's getting harder and harder to rip anything. Current hobby box prices, multiple people said overproduction, overpricing, too expensive. I don't want my son collecting or ripping. It's basically turning into gambling. Affordability at today's prices, many kids are just priced out of the hobby. Price increases are driving people away. Bedard pricing people out of boxes, the whole Bedard tax concept, and then Bedard mania over pricing. Now we've already talked about pricing, but and so maybe I'll ask it in this: does it surprise you that this was a very common point of feedback?
No, not at all. The one I want to touch on, though, the too expensive. I don't want my son collecting or ripping.
Yeah.
It's basically turning into gambling. When I went to Snyder Drug on my bike at 7 years old and bought a pack of cards for 25 cents, it was still gambling.
Sure.
Whether it's 25 or $200 on the pack.
When you went to the dime store, did anyone's like grandparents call the drugstore the dime store?
No.
No.
All right, fine. You guys are no fun.
We call that a house in high school, but I don't think that's what you're talking about.
No, Phil.
Sorry.
Stop it. Don't make us talk about EPAC again, Phil.
Okay.
All right, what were you saying? Lou?
At today, the next one, affordability at today's prices, many kids maybe just priced out of the hobby. I said that once. I don't remember where we were, if I was on or in a comment somewhere, and I got ripped apart for saying that. I
Did it hurt
agree.
your feelings?
Not real, no, but
Okay.
yeah, a little bit.
You're a rock, Louis. You're a rock.
You know, I still look at this as when we were younger and being able to go to the store with a quarter and $1 and buy cards. That's not happening right now. The kids got
Well, you can buy MVP. I couldn't afford a lot of stuff I wanted as a kid too. I remember looking at Ken Griffey Jr. in 1989. Like, here we go with our baseball podcast again, and feeling like I couldn't afford all the singles that I wanted. So I mean, but that's part of reaching and aspiring to stuff too. So yeah, it gets back to the whole pricing balance thing. Okay, then we had probably another large group of people, and I'll read some of them, that on that lack of competition or conglomeration theme. So Monopoly is taking effective control over the industry. No competition for Upper Deck. Multiple people said that. Fanatics getting the exclusive license away from Upper Deck. So it's kind of funny how you see the juxtaposition where some people are worried about competition, no competition for Upper Deck. Some people are worried about Fanatics stealing the license away. We need competition as a consumer. Prices going up. We had multiple people say Fanatics. One person said that they're worried about Fanatics, but they still have confidence that they'll make the hobby better. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah, I don't know. We kind of talked about that. So not sure there's anything more to say there. Phil from Ottawa chimed in. He said, "Yo mama."
I just did that. I don't know why I said that.
You want to explain, Phil? Because my mother's a very lovely lady.
No, Mrs. Madigan is a fantastic woman. I'm sorry, I meant no ill intentions there.
All right, man. We almost came to blows, but that's the closest we'll ever come.
Fisticuffs.
Somebody said football and basketball investors. So I know they think that, like with Bedard, people like the shoe guys are going to come into the hobby. I don't see that as a big thing. Global warming and Upper Deck recycling their inserts and subsets. I'm assuming global warming was a joke.
Get out of the house, man. Go touch some grass. It'll be okay.
Okay, here's the one that I really want to spend a minute talking about. You hear this a lot, and I think almost a bunch of people said this one word answer. It's greed. And I was thinking about that. I even went to the point where I looked up the definition because I kind of struggle with that whole concept. And so I found because in one sense, if someone's just trying to maximize their opportunity, right? But so from Merriam-Webster, which is a dictionary, in case you guys weren't aware, greed they define as a selfish and excessive desire for more of something, such as money, than is needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you've ever seen there's people on Upper Deck's Facebook page, whenever they post something, they'll say greed killed the hobby or something like that, right? And are this word is used a lot. Do you think that it's a threat? Do you think that it's a problem, Phil?
No, not at all. Greed's always been there since the dawn of time. Humans are humans. Nope. They always want more of the thing, right? Too much food, too many cards. No, I don't think it's a problem.
Shane Pinto.
Yeah, there you go.
What about you, Louis? So what do you think?
It's always been there. Everybody's going to want it and more of it.
Okay. All right. Then we had some other kind of random ones. Or not random, just not outlier ones, like a lack of new entrants in the hobby. I don't see that as being. I think we probably had more new entrants, but maybe they're thinking that once this year ends and we're on to Macklin Celebrinis and all those people, that it'll slow down. Small store struggles, like can your local card show be competitive? Do you think that's I think you've made comments around the trials and tribulations of an LCS, Phil, or are you worried about them being able to be sustainable and serve the collectors?
Not if they're on top of it and proactive. So there's 2 LCSs in Ottawa. One's a little more old school, one's a little more with the times, and it's probably going to last the test of time. You know, nobody likes change, but you got to roll with it or you're going to get left behind. So I did hear Fanatics guy, is it Nat Turner? Is that him?
Yeah.
Fanatics. I did hear him say that brick and mortar shops are the foundations of the hobby, and he'd like to, but that could be lip service. I don't know. Right. He would like to keep them there, and they're trying to clean up their tops distribution or something. I'm not too familiar, but if the owner of Fanatics, the CEO, said that, I think that's a good thing. We need brick. I don't want to buy cards online. I want to go to a shop. I want to talk. I want to rip wax there. I want to buy top loaders and tell the guy at the counter things he doesn't want to hear from me of cards I got from the box the night before.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard is like Fanatics is doing in other sports or with like their Tops brand is, so for instance, if they allocate like a bunch of cases to a card shop and the card shop just turns around and flips 80% of breakers, that they're somehow finding out and cutting them, right? And that because they're really focused on that experience.
Great.
And then if you're not willing to put the work in to drive people into your store to create that environment, then we're going to give other people that product.
Love it.
And not just be like, a second layer of distribution.
Love it. That's great. I'm glad you said that, Josh. That's awesome.
So a couple other things, box scanning, which was our hot topic after last show. There's people that were kind of on the economy or macro environment stuff. So stock market crash, God forbid, the economy, a recession, if that were to happen. Then you have like oversaturation leading to collector burnout, lack of interesting cards, further dilution of the product with parallels. We don't want Upper Deck to become like Panini. Then we have more like the scammers making fake profiles. Somebody said, lastly, I guess, Phil's crippling Parker's Champions addiction. Do you think that's a big threat to the hobby?
It's a threat to my wallet and Hasselhoff's dinner. That's about it.
Well, lots of feedback though, huh?
It's great. It's awesome.
Yep, love it.
And just show everybody's different. Everybody has a different bit of a take, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we all have our own perspective.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Any closing thoughts on this?
Welcome to the world we live in.
Sure.
Educate yourself, not others. Yourself first, then others.
Yeah. And remember too, to balance this out, we're going to not be all doom and gloom on the bit, and we're going to look at the hobby with the positive spin and look at what are the opportunities that exist for growth and prosperity for us as collectors and for the hobby in general on our next show. So look forward to that. All right. Wow.
Prosperity? Miracle spring water?
Fountain of Youth, Phil. We found it.
Yeah, right on. Good. Yeah, I could use some of that.
And it will only cost you $50,000, which Louis and I know you have. So don't worry. We're going to be getting that from you.
Give me a good sales pitch. I'm listening.
Okay. Slab Sharks. Ever heard of them? They're a Gongshow partner and sponsor. We're grateful. We're super grateful for their support of our show. They really help make this show possible. The current Slab Sharks weekly eBay auction is live. Ends tonight. Hurry up, guys. Get ready. So head to slabsharks.com. See over 1,800 cards available. Get those bids in. Maybe we'll add a sweet new PC card to your collection. Why are there thousands of cards each week in the Slab Sharks auction? Phil, I can see you want to know. Well, I'll tell you. Because they make it super easy for Canadians, and you're a Canadian, to sell their hockey cards. People like the results of selling on eBay, but nobody likes the process. And good thing, Slab Sharks does it for you. And they're experts at it too. They'll take professional photos, complete your listings, answer promptly any buyer questions. They'll hunt down payment from winners, and they will ship to both the US and Canada. That was another big topic on last show. about the nightmare of shipping cards internationally. Well, when you have a partner like Slabsharks, they just do it for you, and it feels like, I think, a huge relief in that regard. I get anxiety every time I sell a card to Canada, and I hate that about the hobby because I'm just worried that the whole shipping thing is going to be a mess. Most importantly, though, too, even beyond shipping, they handle any post-sale issues that come up. That's underrated, right? So if somebody has an issue, they take care of it for you, and that's probably the worst. Okay, I'm gonna amend my thing. When you think you've sold a card, and 4 days later, somebody's like has a problem with it or something like that. Slab Sharks takes care of that for you. Plus, 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 you get your cards included in their extremely popular eBay auctions. So let's review, guys. They do all the work. Get your cards put in one of the Hockey Hobby's premier auctions each week. I think that's pretty good. So for complete consignment information, including payout rates, be sure to head to slapsharks.com. You can download their app too. Hobby news.
Hobby news.
News from the hobby.
Oh wow, you got a little bit of pizzazz there, a little bit of flair. I like it.
I just want to dance, Josh.
All right, Louis, it's your big moment where you get to lead off with hobby news. So you've found something very informative, very exciting, something the hobby has to know.
Has
We're
to
gonna
know.
turn it over to you and all be informed and learn.
Right.
Your picture game is on point.
I love it.
Love it.
Good. All right. So you had asked me a couple shows ago, you were trying to see if I could find numbers for the Cleveland National, and there wasn't anything at the time. There's not much more now, but this little blurb came out from JBJ Corporation, which now is the new management team, I guess, that took over the show this year. They've reported it that the 2024 National Collectors Convention attracted a record crowd of over 100,000 collectors. They're confident that the attendance surpassed the previous Chicago show. The company only stated that more than 100,000 attendees were present at Chicago, similar to Cleveland. Now,
Okay, what does that mean though? So
I
I read that as it was a record, but it was like 103,700 versus like 102,900.
Right. Well, and what I found, I never even got a specific number. They tell us
Sure.
here that official attendance numbers for the annual show aren't released by the event promoters. However, based on pre-event ticket sales and daily estimates of 20,000 to 25,000 visitors, the turnout was substantial, which could have led into some of these other things they were talking about in the article. The unprecedented crowd size led to significant logistical challenges at the convention center. Heavy traffic, parking shortages, and long lines for restrooms, and the expanded food court caused considerable congestion throughout the venue, resulting in long lines for everything and spotty Wi-Fi service. A quote from the JBJ Corporation said, "The overwhelming turnout has led to the phrase, 'the National broke Cleveland,' which is now gained in popularity. Due to the high demand for hotel rooms, food, restrooms, and parking, we exhausted every available resource to accommodate the attendees."
That's really smart marketing and very funny because when it's a great way to spin it to say, "Oh, we broke Cleveland." I
Right.
didn't think it was that bad. The Wi-Fi thing was kind of funny because, or not funny is not the best word choice, but it was spotty. But there's so many people, and then heard through the grapevine that they had a separate system for because there's a lot of exhibitors like whatnot that were powering live breaks and stuff like that. And so there was a separate Wi-Fi system that you could buy for your booth, and I heard it was extremely expensive,
Of course it was.
Sure.
like crazy. Yeah, so good to know that the attendance was probably where it needs to be. And like I said, I think releases like that are kind of funny where because if there was 150,000 people, the headline would have been the National sets records by 50%, right? And they would have
Right.
given you the numbers. So I take it as it was a record, but barely.
Barely.
Still, good time. Next story, just a really quick, want to make a quick mention, a little player focused piece here. Dustin Wolf. The Calgary Flames have signed their young goalie prospect Wolf to a 2-year deal with an average annual value of $850,000 US. His agreement is two-way, so it allows the Flames to send him back and forth to the AHL if they think he needs further development there. The 23-year-old tender from Gilroy, California, Phil, played 17 games for the Flames last season, finished with a 7-1-1 record, 8.93 save percentage, and 3.16 goals against. Now, he was a 7th-round pick in the 2019 NHL draft, but guys, had a lot of success in his run-up to the NHL. You tell me if this isn't impressive. And I didn't remember or know that he had accomplished this much. He was the CHL Goalie of the Year in 2020. He was named the WHL's best goalie in both 2020 and 21. Named the AHL's best goalie in 2022-23. And in last year, in 2023, was the AHL's MVP.
Wow. No kidding.
That's not shabby.
That's not too shabby at all. That's
very
really good.
good.
I wish Ottawa had him last year. Well, we got a pretty good one now.
You're already turning on your guy Linus Allmark now?
No.
Have you bought a Linus Allmark card yet to celebrate?
No, I'm not doing that.
Well, I would be pretty excited if I was a Flames fan, and I don't think there's much to be excited. I know they got a new arena coming, so that's probably another big development, but that won't open for a few years. And with them trading Jacob Markstrom this year, I think that has cleared a path for Wolf to play even more next season. So he'll enter camp in a competition with Dan Vladar for that top goalie spot. But yeah, you got to have something to look forward to if you're a fan of a team that's kind of bottoming out right now.
There's this
Where does
opportunity.
Calgary fall in the? Oh, sorry, but it's for Phil real quick. In the pantheon of Canadian teams, where does Calgary fall? Right, we know it's like Toronto, Montreal, 1A, 1B. Then how do you rank the teams from there?
In my
Edmonton?
mind, no. So can I use me as the first person?
Yeah.
So
you're
Ottawa would be first, and I like Winnipeg, Edmonton, Calgary. I grouped the three of them together. I know people in Edmonton probably hate that, and Calgary vice versa. But everyone likes Edmonton, everyone likes Calgary, everyone likes Winnipeg. Ottawa, no one really cares about us or likes us either. But Vancouver, nobody likes, and nobody likes Toronto. You know.
But if there was a national vote, where do you think Calgary would?
Oh, middle.
fall? In the middle.
They're inconsequential. No one thinks about them. Yeah.
Well, Dustin Wolf is a 2023-24 Young Guns. PSA 10, pop 478. That's not too bad. 56% gem rate. Last sold on July 30th for $72 US, up 44% in the past month. So was selling for about 50 US at the end of June. I think trading Markstrom probably has fueled some more of the interest into him. I love this card too. I think it's a great picture of him and a really cool goalie card.
It's a great card.
Yep. Good looking card.
Young Guns. We're looking at the Young Guns Dustin Wolf.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for you guys listening. Forget about that sometimes.
Yeah. Can't forget the listener.
Can't forget
Audio
that.
show first, boys. Audio show.
Right.
First.
Yes, I really feel that that's the most important. I really do. Audio first.
Well, in a recap of the National, I had mentioned the hockey trade night I went to that happened to be sponsored by our next guest, Jeffrey Zucker. Jeff is producer of the hockey themed, I guess, movie, I would call it, The Late Game, available for rent right now on Amazon Prime, coming to Canada, Phil, and via Apple in early September. That centers around a beer league team. So what a great concept for a hockey movie. Jeff got some really big names in the hockey community, like Rear Admiral from Spit and Chicklets is in the movie. There you can see him there, right? If you're watching, right on the logo. And then Zach Bell. Do you know Zach Bell, Phil? He's that trick shot artist.
No, I know Mark Bell from Ottawa.
Oh, I'll send you videos. He's kind of amazing.
Okay.
But yesterday, had the opportunity to chat with Jeff, learn about what it's like to make a movie about hockey, an independent one, his love for the sport, and how they've really tied the promotion of the late game into the hockey hobby. And Jeff's a great guy, and we hope you enjoy our conversation with him now. Very pleased and excited to have Jeffrey M. Zucker, from the co-creator, star, producer, pretty much everything in the movie available now on Amazon Prime, The Late Game. So, hey, Jeff, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Yeah, Josh, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the shout out too.
Okay, so I just want to get right into it. I am beyond fascinated about what it's like to make a movie, and then of course the fact that not only is it a movie, it's a hockey movie. So there we go. That gets me even more interested. But when did you get the idea to make a movie about hockey?
So my business partner, Jeff Tyner, and we played hockey together growing up. So we, especially our senior year of high school, we got especially close and would always talk about hockey content that was out there, kind of our love-hate relationship with the Mighty Ducks. And we always thought we could do it better, especially the hockey itself. Like we were rarely, other than Miracle, we were rarely satisfied with the hockey action in a movie. And so at probably like early on in the pandemic, Tyner brought me a script for a short film concept about a hockey game. And I was like, this is great. I think this can be a feature. Like, bring me another draft. And basically we did that over a few years, like where he would just bring different drafts to my house every month or two. And we'd work on it.
Wow. So, okay, that was one of my questions. So from concept to end, how long did it take to make this movie?
Yeah. So, started the writing process in 2020, shot the film itself in September of 2022 over about 16 days in Charleston, South Carolina, at the Carolina Ice Palace, where we grew up playing, which was awesome. And then we spent, a better part of a year and a half, some of it dead time, some of it crazy time, editing and doing post-production. So, it went from about a 4-year process overall.
Wow. That's incredible. And what was it about Beer League in particular that kind of drew you as sort of the main theme, we'll call it, or backdrop for the story?
Yeah, there's a few reasons. And like the short version of the backstory is that I have been working on projects in the film space for 8 or 9 years, and I've gotten a lot of things really close to a finish line only to have some sort of Hollywood political issue or, somebody changing management make the project not go forward. And so this was a culmination of that frustration and just like, let's just make our own movie. And then it's like, okay, well, what do we know about? Like we know about hockey and we play beer league, and come to think of it, I don't think there's ever been a beer league movie. And, we love hockey, and there's not a huge bar to be one of the better hockey movies. It's like Miracle's amazing. We're big fans of Youngblood. And certain aspects of the Mighty Ducks and Mystery Alaska and all that, but like the bar wasn't crazy high, and we feel like we met our goal of getting the best hockey action on film since Miracle.
Mm-hmm. Are you a Slapshot fan at all or no?
Yeah, sorry, I can't believe I didn't mention Slapshot. Of course, the Slapshot is the holy grail. Like we hope to be in hockey culture the way Slapshot is, even in like a tiny percent of that in 30, 40, 50 years like they've done.
Well, do you know the character in Slapshot, Mad Dog Martinson, the guy that basically skates on the ice and flicks off the crowd?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So my last name is Madigan. That's Connie Madigan, who is a distant cousin, right? Of closer to my dad. And he was the oldest NHL rookie, oldest rookie in NHL history. He'd made his debut with the Blues at 38 years old, and then also had that role in the movie. So you starred in a hockey movie, and that'll always be my probably closest association to it. But one of the things that I love about Beer League too, and I think that you did a great job, is capturing the menagerie of personas that exist in Beer League. So can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, to us, like tackling Beer League, we wanted it to just feel real. Like that's a real life experience that we have been a part of since we graduated from travel hockey. And I think like no matter what level of hockey you play, if you want to keep playing when you're old, you're going to end up in Beer League, whether you're in the NHL or whether you just played house league as a kid. And so it's just kind of this universal place for people. And we've all met so many characters over the years, and it's just from talking to people, we could hear that like everyone feels like they got this kind of character and that kind of character. So we were like, really the catalyst was Jeff Tyner, the, real writer behind all this, like writing our friends and plenty of everyone in the movie except that plays on the Polly's Pies team, except for Riley, who's played by Alec Rush. Everyone else had actually played hockey with Tyner before in some capacity, whether beer league or youth hockey, etc., or adult hockey. And so we really were just trying to write, other than a couple of characters like John, who I played, is like, very sticky, and he's kind of built up amongst a handful of captains we've been with over the years. But everyone else is pretty much, and Riley, but everyone else is pretty much a version of themselves. So, Tyler, Proton, they're just kind of written in mostly their real life voices, like maybe some exaggerations here and there. Kevin's not exaggerated. He's really that awful, but
Okay, actually, I'm totally ahead of myself, and I have more questions I want to dive into. But what I should have done like a minute or two ago is, for anyone that hasn't seen the late game, do you want to maybe take like a minute and sort of explain what the premise of the movie is, and without giving too much away, I suppose?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. The Late Game is a labor of love, an indie film about one night at a beer league hockey game at the Carolina Ice Palace in Charleston, South Carolina, and it's basically about a team of 30-somethings just trying to like get through their recreation against a bunch of 20-year-old tryhards. And our main character, Riley's relatively new to town. He's only skated once since he's been in the town, and gets talked into subbing for the late night game. And they've only got 7 guys on the bench, or 7 guys total, 2 guys on the bench. And we all know how hard it is to get up for that 11 p.m. game, especially after a long day. So it's just kind of that. We're just giving you a slice of life view into that world that, many of us have lived in. And if you haven't lived in it, if you play other sports, you probably have lived in it to some capacity.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to get back to the characters that exist on the team and around the team and in the stands. Even it's, to me, as I like fantasize about what it would be like to make a movie like this, I would think that would have had been one of the funnest days brainstorming all those characters. It's like, the uptight guy, the crazy person, the person that thinks they're way better than they are, the try hard, right? All those sort of characters.
Yeah, that was an incredible amount of fun. And really, a lot of it was Tyner and I reminiscing about the characters we knew from our rink growing up. And so a lot of even characters like, Tyler's based on Tyler, but there's people like Sandy who are an amalgamation of a bunch of people we knew growing up. And we had like these unique characters in our rink, but it still resonates with people at their rink. It's like, our version of this guy had this flavor, your version has this, but they're both kind of this basic type. And it just seems like every rink has these characters. So yeah, I mean, honestly, it was like over many years of just talking about, let's do something in hockey. We'd concepted kind of an office sitcom, workplace comedy about a rink at one point as well. And we wrote a pilot for that. And so we'd had some character time to play around there. So it's really just for years talking about these guys. And then the hardest part, I would say, is just like whittling down the tons of ideas, right, into the ones that make it in. And that was the case with our Mighty Ducks joke in there too, is like we had pages of that stuff. And we had to pick what worked.
Okay, now I've seen this referenced a few times. I think you've already even mentioned it very briefly here too, but is it true you had basically one quote unquote professional actor in the entire cast? Or because I thought the acting was really good, and I would be so wooden. I'd be like, I don't know how you guys pulled it off.
Yeah. So the only people that had really any acting experience, number one was Alec, who plays Riley. We were looking for an actor that had experience playing hockey. We found him through Reddit. And so he kind of got to live that real life, he's the new guy thing amongst guys that already knew each other.
He's the protagonist of the story, right?
Yes,
essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So he's the guy who's kind of been down on his luck, relatively new to town, anxious about going to play hockey with new people, trying to make new friends. He did an amazing job. And then Kristen, Andrea Russell, who plays Erin, the scorekeeper, she had some acting experience. I had taken acting classes and been involved in the industry and been in little things here and there that I've produced, but this was certainly my biggest acting experience. And yeah, everyone else is pretty much just friends or of ours that were doing us favors. We were playing the crew as they should get paid. But most of the actors were, hey, can you lend us 2 weeks of your life? We'll pay you a little bit of money and give you food. And so I think that was part of why it came across pretty genuine, is because there was not only were there existing relationships, but we also had a pretty warm set, and part of that because of the existing relationships. Everyone was pretty cohesive. Everyone was doing their job. You'll hear us talk about it on our pod a lot when we talk to people who were part of the cast and crew. It was like it's kind of like living a really exhausting dream for a couple weeks.
Now, had you always intended to have a sort of a starring role in the movie yourself, or was that like, did that come out about throughout the process?
Yeah, not always. I mean, when we first started, I knew I wanted to be in it in some capacity. I've wanted to like kind of stretch my acting muscle a little bit, especially in my own stuff. So, I can kind of do whatever, make it work. And we weren't sure it was going to be John. I mean, we had dream scenarios in mind of actors we could get if we were getting a big budget and if we were going to have, ours was non-union because of how tight the budget was. So we couldn't use actors that were in the union. So, like our dream was for Nat Faxon to play John. And I don't know if you're familiar with Nat Faxon, but everybody will recognize his face. He's in tons of shows. He's got these huge teeth. He had his own show on FX for a couple seasons called Married. Been in tons of movies. Everyone recognized him. Bottom line, he's a big hockey guy. And just he would have been hilarious in the role. But over time, like definitely as we realized we weren't going to be getting stars in any of these roles, then I was super interested in playing John. We talked about me potentially playing Mark the Ref, but I'm really happy with where I ended up. And I mean, everybody that's an actor, I think, is hard on their performance, and I'm satisfied with my performance. There's certainly things I could have done better, but the reality was I was wearing, as many of us were wearing, a dozen hats through this production. So it's like trying to figure out why the lunch is late while I'm also preparing for a scene, and just lots of little things like that. So it made it tough, but because we had friends around, it made it less so. It wasn't as much of an issue.
Well, you also got a couple of pretty big names from the hockey world to contribute to the project as well. The first one I want to talk about is RA, Rear Admiral from Spit and Chicklets. Brian, is it McGonigal? Is that how you say his last name? Or how did that come about? How did you get him involved in the movie?
Yeah. I mean, that was huge. And it was certainly strategic. They're great guys, and also strategic for our hockey audience that we wanted to get RA in it and Zach Bell, who's always hockey in it. And with RA, I had been working on some potential projects with Biz in other capacities, have had a connection with him for a few years, and met up with those guys when they came here to Denver in the Western Conference Finals in 2022. And that's where I met RA. And I'd heard him talk about on the show that he was interested in acting and that he'd done this background stuff. And so I told him, I'm making a hockey movie. Do you want to be in it? I asked him if he could skate. He was like, oh, not really. And I was like, all right, well, you're not going to be the ref, which was our first idea. They were like, well, how about the Zam driver? And when he was into that, we ended up beefing up the Zam driver a little bit in terms of content. But, and he's said it on his pod and on our pod that like plenty of people approach him all the time with opportunities, obviously. But, I was on top of it. And, the next Monday morning, he had what he needed in his email, and I coordinated throughout. And, we ended up having him for 5 of the shooting days. So we had 15 shooting days. And so we just, we scheduled around him the days that he was there. And, we were a low budget set, but tried to give him as much of a little bit of a star experience as he could get. And he was awesome. Like, he messed around with us. So much of our movie is like Tyner, my partner and the director, would be him being like, hey guys, here's what I need you to get across in this scene, but like do it how you think it comes naturally to you. And so that was some of the most fun I had on set, was messing around with RA. Like there's this scene where I'm at the bench, me and Kevin are there during the timeout, and RA pops up on the bench, and that was some of the best hour or two, however long it was, of my whole experience on set, was just kind of riffing with them there, and excited for the point at which we can release some bloopers from that.
Yeah, he did a good job. I've seen him in Shoresy, which is probably what he's a little bit very small, much smaller role in Shoresy. And I think too, it ended up being, I thought the guy you got to do the ref did a really good job too. But the Zamboni driver is always kind of crazy at the rink and crabby and never likes anybody. And it's like, you're afraid to talk to him. It's like, I need my skate sharpened. And it's like, no, Exactly. And so I thought it was a great role for him.
It honestly couldn't have worked out better in that regard. Like, it just made sense. And I'm glad that it came together that way. And, RA and I and our team have become good friends, over this time putting this together. And then to like, eventually it comes full circle, and the movie's actually coming out, and we get to kind of re-engage with everyone. And that was really fun because I've been involved in projects. Others on our team have been involved in projects that just don't make it to the finish line. So that was something we're really proud of. And it's been, it's been fun over since March to kind of reconnect with everybody.
Then you already mentioned Zach Bell too. Here's the problem I would have with Zach Bell. I think if he's shooting, he would get to the rink and he would start doing whatever wizardry he does with the puck, and I would just stare for like 3 hours. And that guy's incredible.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I don't know how he does the things that he does. I know he's been practicing intensely for many years, but his skill set is unbelievable. And, we were looking for that sort of pizzazz in the movie. And like, obviously he's got a great following as well because of his awesome skill. And it worked out. And we did have moments we were just watching him. Like, so much of making a movie is sitting around the set if you're not crew. If you're cast, you're often just hanging out. So sometimes it would be, Zach and Jordan, who works with him, they would just be doing a bunch of tricks and maybe filming some side stuff. It was also cool that like all the kids at the rink would come line up to see Zach, and all the adults would line up to see RA.
Yeah, I'm sure. Were you blown away by Zach though when he would start doing some of those trick shots? And that was it. I think it's crazy. We'll just watch him on TikTok.
It was nuts to see it in person, like especially like when he will throw the stick all the way up in the air, like to the ceiling and catch it and then catch the puck. It's just like, it doesn't seem physically possible, but yet I'm seeing it in front of me. And he was a pleasure to work with too. He was, originally only going to be with us for, I don't know, maybe 5 days. He ended up staying 11. So that was awesome.
Oh, wow.
We were able to work him into some more scenes and just like really make the most of having him there. I especially love that shootout goal from him, and no spoilers, but he scores a shootout goal.
Well, and he has decent acting chops too. So was that a pleasant surprise to you that not only could he do all the magic with the, he can give you those kind of shots, but I thought he was pretty good acting.
Yeah, no, that was a pleasant surprise. We honestly didn't know what to expect on that front, but he did a great job. And kind of the opposite with Alec Rush, who plays Riley. When we found him via Reddit, he told us he played hockey, and we asked him a little bit about his playing background, but we realized like we didn't ever ask for a video of him playing hockey. Like, what if he gets here and he's terrible? But it worked out. He was good. He was pretty good. We got lucky.
Yeah. And now what's the story with Zach too? I thought I read a year or two ago, did he have like concussion issues, or like, why is he not a hockey player?
Yeah, he did play some juniors. He had concussion issues that forced him to stop playing competitively. And, from a young age, he'd already been doing some of these trick shot videos and stuff. And he just, once that happened, he really dug deep into it. And it's been really cool to see the brand that he's been able to build and the following he's created. He's really interested in bringing the game to new eyes. And I think he's done that. Having an eye-catching video can get somebody that might not have thought too much about hockey to want to dig in a little bit. And he's been all over the place lately too. I mean, he's had NHL teams bringing him in. He's joined us at AHL and ECHL games. He's doing a lot of stuff on the golf end as well. So everything that he's been able to build, from his skill set to his brand, has been really impressive and certainly helpful for us. And, he's also really big in Canada. He's Canadian, and we'll be out in Canada September 10th, finally, via rent or purchase on Apple TV. And that, is a harder process than people could imagine, getting our distribution there. But I think that'll be a great additional opportunity to leverage Zach and his fan base and all the great work that he does.
Last question on him. So when you saw him on the ice, I mean, was there a part of you that said, oh, he could have like had a chance? Yeah,
I mean, no question. Anybody with hands like that, and we weren't playing like full speed, like we're messing around. So his skills messing around are mind blowing. I've never watched him play like a competitive game, which I'd be curious to see, but like, yeah, 100%. If it were not for injuries, he certainly would have moved up the ladder, I would imagine.
So you mentioned distribution a minute ago, and that was kind of ironically my next question, because I think it would be tough enough just making a movie, but then you have to figure out how to get it in front of people and expose it and give people the chance to consume it. So how was that process? How long did it take? Was that easier or harder than you thought it was going to be?
Everything is as most things are in a lot of my entrepreneurial endeavors, and especially in film, everything's always a little harder than you think. And I've been building up my network in the space for nearly a decade, and that certainly helped quite a bit. But it didn't, because I hadn't had any of my projects really take off yet or anything, and we didn't have anybody on our cast or crew that had a lot of success in film. It just makes it that much harder for anyone to even take a look. So that, I think that our film is good enough to have made it onto a subscription streaming platform like a Netflix, but the combination of no stars in it and lack of a track record makes that nearly impossible. So we were fortunate to be able to go the path of Prime, and they have an option for independent filmmakers to publish directly on their platform, obviously for a revenue share. And we wanted to do that. Our thinking was, let's have one place to send the hockey community. We've got eyes and ears of a lot of them through our network. And that went pretty well. We had a great starting point, but immediately after that was launched, we had within a day or two a tech issue, which made me realize we can't put all our eggs in one basket. I need to go back to what the Hollywood people were telling me and go to a distribution company to get us on some more platforms. And so we're now working with Blue Harbor Entertainment. And while it's been a long process, since we probably started the conversations, months ago, we now have our September 10th date to be on Apple in Canada and US, to be on In Demand in the US, as well as Fandango at Home, which used to be called Vudu. And so that wider distribution net will give us a better opportunity to just reach a wider audience. But we're really happy with how we've done so far. It's been really good for an indie movie. And I'm so excited. The whole team is so excited to get into Canada. And we've gotten so much hate for not being there yet. You have a hockey movie and you're not in Canada. And it's guys, anybody out there in Canada listening, I promise you, if I could have put it out in Canada the same day that went out in the US, it would have gone. But I think the good thing for us will be we've learned a ton in these months as we've been active in the US. And so it'll make the Canadian experience better, hopefully.
Well, about half our audience is Canadian, so that'll be good news for them. September 10th, you said that they'll be able to see it. What about Europe, like Scandinavia, other hockey-focused countries? Is that even a tougher mountain to climb?
It's a little bit tougher. There is the potential for us to do it via Apple. We have to at least make enough funds via this Canadian process to get all the other subtitles we'll need to go into those other countries. So right now, our own, we've got English and we've got Canadian, or we've got French Canadian. French, Canadian style. And so we'll need to get those for the other countries. I think we have some paths that we're looking at. We're especially interested in Scandinavia. We've been talking to some outlets in Sweden. So that's all in the works, but unfortunately I can't give a timeline on it.
Gotcha. How do you measure success in something like this? Like a year from now, how will you be able to say, I achieved my goal? Or is there a metric? Is it just the process of doing it?
There's a few ways. I mean, as creators of film, our team is really happy that we ended up with a full feature film. There's, I said, there's been sets we've been on where just everything falls apart or just that doesn't come together in the edit. So, we were nervous. It was our first time as a group doing it from scratch all together. And we felt accomplished there. So I think just what we've brought to the cast and the crew and everybody involved, that felt like a real accomplishment. In terms, and just also publishing, getting our product out there felt great as well. In terms of a success, if you're looking at it as a business, step number one would be great to make our money back.
Yeah.
And I would say within that time frame that you mentioned, that I should have a very good idea as to whether or not that will happen. And it'd be great to make some money, but at least make our money back so we feel like we can do it again. And with the late game specifically, we're trying hard to build a brand of content in the hockey community and trying to reach into the different areas in the hockey community, like hockey cards, for instance, and just trying to have a
What are those? Never heard of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And trying to have a place for people to kind of commune and convene around hockey, but maybe it's not NHL specific. We'll talk about the NHL, but really beer league hockey, share those kind of stories, and just be a place where you can use the movie as sort of the base of our brand and our characters. And we've started to make more content with that stuff. And I don't know when this episode's coming out, but at a similar time frame, I imagine we'll be having some videos coming out from Cleveland, from the National. We've got some really fun stuff, including my favorite video we did was myself, and then Sean, who plays Nick the goalie, and then Tyler from the movie. The three of us each get $100. We walk around the National and see who can come back with the most valuable card based on recent eBay sales, and that was a really fun one.
Yeah, I've done something like that too. That is real fun to do. And hey, if you ever do a project in the future and you like have a role for, let's say, the most popular hockey cards podcast in the world where they can't say any players' names, because that would be weird, right? I don't know. Maybe you know where to go.
Wait, you can't say players' names?
We can't say French names.
Oh, you're just not able to, not like you're not allowed to.
Yeah. We're
okay, I got
literally,
you.
it's like a disability where we can't say any French names ever, right? To the point where Troy and I, he's on vacation this week, by the way. That's why he's not here. And we'll go onto like YouTube and like name pronunciation guides and listen over and over and over again. And then we'll get to the show and it comes out totally different. It's honestly, I think part of our brand that we can't.
Yeah, no, that's great.
We know the names. But we just can't.
We work with Skull and Steel as partners in the card breaking community, and you talked about on your show how we did our trade night with them, and they've been awesome to work with. But Sean Shapiro, who's on our team, is he's an NHL writer, and has been deep in that space for many years, and so he is always critiquing them on the pronunciations. He's like, I can get you a pronunciation guide from the league, so I know he's an advocate for good pronunciation.
Oh yeah. We've been doing this 2 years and we're kind of getting it now. So, but it's a big time work in progress. Okay, so now this is a good transition to the National. So, I told the story on how wasn't even aware that there's a trade night until literally 10 minutes outside of Cleveland. Get a message from somebody that supports our show and saying, "Are you going hockey trade night?" And I'm like, "What? Trade night? Hockey trade night? Where?" And so quickly, and then he wasn't responding because I think he was there. So I'm like frantically searching the internet and find a flyer and type in, I think it was like Rally.
Rivals.
What was the name of the Rivals? Right.
Rivals. Yep.
And yeah, we're there 10 minutes later. I was so pleased and happy to see that there was at least some sort of hockey event related to the National. And then getting to meet you guys was I didn't know who you were. I didn't know who the Skull and Steel, as you said, is the breaking
Skull and Steel. Yep.
Crew. I had not had the opportunity to meet them. But congratulations for putting on a hockey event at the National. That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
How did that fit into kind of your promotion plan? I just wanted, I guess maybe let's start with where the whole hockey hobby sort of intersected with your desire to find an audience for the movie.
Yeah. So, most of us working on this film, especially Tyner and I, are huge hockey fans. We collected cards as kids, and Dan Blanda, who's on our team, he runs our social media. He was an avid hockey card collector, an avid buyer into these breaks, and really introduced us to the concept of card breaking, and just filled us in on all of that has happened in the last handful of years in the card space and the growth. And so that just had the whole group looking into it. He ended up starting to do social media for Skull and Steel also. So our team would go into their breaks. We did some things where people from the movie would pop in for a little while and talk to the audience. And it just ended up being a really good fit. Their audience is, frankly, it's hockey fans that are spending money. And as much as I hate the financial aspect of trying to make this movie successful, that's what I need. And so these are people that understood us and our brand and care about it and are putting something into the hobby that they're doing. So it made a lot of sense. And the more we kind of hung out in their streams, it was reflective of sort of the community that we're trying to build. They have a very communal feel in their streams that I don't get on a lot of the other ones, where it's just everybody's kind of talking, and there's people, it's the guys are talking and everyone else is chatting in the chat, and it's handles you recognize, people you feel like you get to know. And then when they pulled that 1-out-of-1 Bedard, that turned into a whole thing. We did a video on that, and It's honestly like started to feel like kind of a family group in a way. And that's something we hope to create around our movie. And so while doing it in that atmosphere may not be the biggest of places, it's a really cool, great group of people.
Gotcha. Had you been to the National before?
No, I had not. So only a few months ago, I really got back into cards. Like as a kid, I was obsessed, but it was the junk wax era. And,
Sure.
I got a lot of worthless paper binders full, but then, as I started learning about the growth in the space, I really got into it the last few months and, went into the National with my 2 cases. And I was like, I'm going to consolidate into 1 case of nicer cards. And it was hard, but I did it. Including my biggest trade was at our event. I know you guys
what was it?
said you didn't see if there were trades. So, Dan, who, I'm going to have him on our show with us when you come on. He's my card guru. He's the team's card guru. So he's doing a lot of big stuff. So I honestly don't even know what all I traded other than that. I looked at everything. I was like, yeah, that works. I got this 1 out of 2 Crosby buyback. So it was like 2017 buyback in 2019. To 2.
That would be an auto, I assume.
Yeah, and it's it's a 10 auto. And I think it's authenticated. And this guy Austin who was attending traded with him. Basically I handed him a bunch of cards and some cash, and basically Crosby, McKinnon, Makar are the 3 that I'm focused on right now. And that was it was a really fun get.
Yeah.
I can pull. I got
it
right here if you want to see it.
All right. Yeah, let's see it.
I don't know how they translate on here, but let's see. The glares are off.
Oh yeah, that would be a OPG Platinum. That'd be a Violet Pixels. It looks like.
There you go. See, so I'm not, because I've only been doing this a few months. Like I don't know all those things. Like Dan is our guy that knows all of those things. And I know you guys were talking about not being as familiar with like the breaking community. And so I'm excited again for you to chat with Dan on that, because he's been able to feed me all the knowledge.
Yeah. Well, our problem on our show with breaking, and we've said this before, is I don't know, like the hockey hobby is like very, very welcoming. And I don't know what the landscape is for the crew that but and I'm trying not to be like super over the top here when I say that generally they kind of all hate each other, and so we have a breaker on and we get hate mail for like a week after, and then we have another one on and we get the other flavor of that. So I think it's very competitive in some certain regards, and
I am getting that vibe as I learn the space. And I mean, for the audience's context, like I've run businesses in tons of industries, serial entrepreneur, and I would just say to anybody in any industry, you're a lot happier and generally a lot more successful if you're able to find mutually beneficial ways to work with your competition than to fight. Especially though in this hockey card community, there's so much room for growth in the space. I think there's room for everybody. And we've talked about a little bit, or at least I've heard on your show talking about how hockey is sort of this, it's kind of like the bottom of the rung in terms of the card community. It's like there weren't a lot of hockey specific things going on. And I think there's a lot of room to grow that. And I mean, that could be a whole nother argument if like how much we want to do that, but I just think that there's so much room to grow. And I hope that, if that community is sort of fractured like that, I hope they can start to come together and just realize if we all, work together, there's going to be a lot more to go around.
Yeah, I just find you focus on yourself and you're typically more successful instead of worrying what other people do. But getting back to the National though, when you got to the show, did it surprise you, the scope and the scale and how big this hobby really is?
Yeah, I mean, like I thought it was going to be a big show. I've been to a lot of trade shows in various industries, but it was ginormous, like overwhelming. You talked about it well on your show, just also poorly run and lines out the wazoo. And yes, that was number one. Like we spent 2 days walking the floor, and like maybe I would have gone longer knowing how crazy it was now, but day one was just pure overwhelming. Like, what is all of this? And then day 2, we were a little more structured. We kind of knew where some things were, but I was still seeing tons of stuff I hadn't seen the day before.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to you about this, I think briefly via text or maybe even in person, but especially if you're going into Canada, you guys have to go to the expo on November 10th. that I
Yeah.
think it starts on the 10th and goes through the 12th, maybe. It's the 100% the inverse of the national, in that it's a little bit smaller, but the expo is the second largest card show in the world, so it's not that much
Wow.
smaller to begin with. And if hockey is 4% at the national, it's 96% at
I mean,
at the expo.
everybody did tell us that. Yes, that sounds like my dream. I'm going to do everything I can to be there and to have some late game presence there, hopefully do some fun stuff. But I'm going to be spoiled and I'm never going to want to go to any other card show.
No, you don't. But it's
I'm a
honestly,
hockey
it's the
only
most,
guy. So
yeah, it's the most amazing time. In the autograph list, like if you go, they're just starting to release names, but I think they had
okay.
Dominik Hasek was the only hockey player I saw at the national. It'll be it's a crazy list of the who's who of Hall of Famers. Like Timu was signing autographs
Wow.
in spring. It's nuts, but it's the greatest get together in the hockey community that there
I
is.
assume you'll
There's
be
tons
there.
of events. Oh yeah, yeah. We're there uh every spring and fall. And then they're
Cool.
starting to
Well,
branch out all through Canada now. They do a show in Edmonton, they do one in Montreal, and the whole show kind of thing has been really growing over
mhm.
the past couple of years. So it sounds like in Colorado, and by who you mentioned, like in Sid and then McKinnon and McCarr, that you're an Avs guy. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
mean, I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, loving the Penguins and the Avs. Like I was big on Mario Lemieux, big on Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh, Peter Forsberg. I've always been about players, and Crosby, being a Lemieux fan, kind of watched Crosby come up initially, and got seeing a guy that's basically my
Mhm.
exact same age doing what he did was always enthralling to me. So that really drove me into my Penguins fandom, and the timing worked out well. And then I moved to Denver 8 years ago, and I'd been this huge Avs fan during the good Sakic years, and just I'd been casual since. And a guy I've known since I was 8 years old, Jared Bednar, got hired to be the coach. He was with our team in Charleston, the South Carolina Stingrays, for 15 years in various capacities, and that gave me extra rooting interest. So I've been a season ticket holder since. Love watching the Avs, love watching McKinnon and McCarr, especially. And so, yeah, that's kind of made them those three guys the centerpieces of my collecting.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at McKinnon. There's a lot of argument in the hockey hobby that he is one of the more underappreciated guys. He doesn't get nearly the hobby love that
Hmm.
McDavid or Crosby or Vetchkin or Matthews get. They're kind of on a tier all on their own for active players. And then you've got sort of that next tier down, which you would have your McKinnon, Pasternak, McCarr, probably, and maybe a couple of Jack Hughes, a couple of other guys.
Yeah,
And I think to some extent too that McKinnon even gets outshadowed a little now, even in the hobby, by McCarr a little bit,
he
since the
does.
whole like baby Orr stuff. But what's it like watching McKinnon in person 40 times a year?
It is unbelievable. There's no one that plays hockey like him. Even if McDavid's better, just like the handle he has on the puck, the things that he can do at full speed are just like nothing I've ever seen. He doesn't play hockey the way other people do. I don't really know how to put it. And it comes across on TV, but not to the extent that it does in person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then on McCarr, what I think is actually kind of a good thing, both interest in the game and definitely in the hobby, is there's sort of a little bit of a not a rival in the sense that they really compete against each other, but having Quinn Hughes really emerge too.
Yeah.
And where we're now, it's a little bit of, because it sort of seemed like after the year that you guys won the Stanley Cup, that basically McCarr was going to win the Norris Trophy for, ad infinitum at that
Right.
point. But now you've got this sort of rivalry for dominance on the defensive end between him and Quinn Hughes. And I think that's high tide that raises all ships sort of thing.
Exactly.
So,
The same way Gretzky and Lemieux raised each other up. And I'm not saying these guys are Gretzky and Lemieux, but they're certainly our version of that for defensemen in this age.
do you have like a grail? Even I'm not expecting you to know like a specific year or card type, but is there a grail type card that you like, a Gretzky rookie or some other card that you would love to have?
I don't feel like I'm I learned so much at the show. I don't even feel that I'm studied enough to necessarily have an answer. Like I know my hockey, but I don't know my cards as well yet. And I showed you that Crosby. I also got
Yeah.
a McCarr Young Gun Mint 10 at the show.
Okay.
And I recently acquired a McKinnon Young Gun Mint 10. And those are my 3 prize ones right now. I mean, yeah, at some point I'd love to get a Crosby rookie auto of some sort. And
Yep.
I mean, I love players, and there's handfuls that I love, but what I realized the show, it's from a dollars perspective and just like handling it, it's easier to focus on a few. So it's like, I'm a huge Joe Sakic fan. I went to Boston University, so like all the guys that went there, I was there when we won the national championship in 2009, and so there's guys like, it'd be cool to have a Kevin Shattenkirk rookie auto card, and that's something that is more of interest to me than it is to most people because of my BU connection with him. And there's lots of guys like that. So it's just, I've picked these 3 guys to initially focus on, but who knows what I'll come back with from Toronto.
Crosby has one of the nicest signatures too. I mean, a really beautiful autograph to look at. Now, the thing on the McKinnon Young Guns, is it his shoulder? Is it pink or no pink? You know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. I believe mine is no pink.
Good, you got the right one, because that's what after they corrected the print issue there, and that's probably the more valuable one over the long term. So
yes, and
that's one.
One reason I really like McKinnon's too is because he talks about the struggles his first couple years in the league, and how he kind of wasn't as professional. Now he's like so like hard line, like about everything, and you can kind of see that in the picture. He's a little bit thicker. He looks younger, obviously, as all rookies do, but you can just, I don't know, it just kind of reads that story to me, and I just find it interesting.
You've alluded to a little bit how you would love to do something else, and for future projects in the entertainment space, let's call it. Well, first of all, what would you want to do? Would you want to do a TV show, a movie? Do you not care? And do you want to kind of keep on the hockey theme?
So, I mean, in terms of the late game, if budget wasn't an issue, we'd love to make a series, like a TV show. We have a lot of different ideas around what that could look like. So anybody interested in helping us make that happen, let me know. In general, I mean, I want my background and the things I've tried to make happen and get to the finish line have been R-rated comedies. So this fits in that genre, but some of them a little bit more outlandish. My partners in that have been 2 great actors and writers, Jeff Howard and BJ Bales. They've been in lots of shows you've heard of, but you'd never recognize them probably, unless Big Fat and Workaholics. If anybody's a big Workaholics fan, there we go. Yeah, my buddy played Big Fat in that one episode. He's iconic for that. So we want to make some R-rated comedies. I mean, for me, I'm more passionate about shows than I am movies, but movies are a lot easier to get made, and neither are easy, but it's a lot easier to get, a low budget movie made versus like something that you're making 5-10 episodes of. So I foresee doing some more feature films. I always want to do something in hockey. It doesn't have to be every project though. But I love the idea of integrating it where I can. And, Tyner, he has experience in the college football space. And so he's started a script based in that universe. So I'm not 100% sure where we'll go, but if there's anyone out there that wants to, put money behind the late game, we are so pumped to make more of it.
What was the hardest day and the best day of this project?
Oh my God. I mean, the hardest day was probably the compressor broke down at the rink. And that's not the rink, which, but my family owns, so I need to, I'll put that out there. But it's September in South Carolina. It's very hard to keep a rink alive in those times. And the compressor broke down. And we had some, water and condensation issues. Thankfully we'd already filmed most of the hockey action, but it just added new things that we had to figure out. I mean, every day was the best day. Like Rizzo, who plays Hubie and who was a producer and the assistant director, he would just pop over randomly on set and be like, are we in the middle of living our dreams? Like, is this the best time of our lives? Like, and that's how it felt, honestly, is like the most fun I've ever had. It was the most fun I've ever had, the hardest I've ever worked, the least I've ever slept. And we were just running on adrenaline, like doing things we cared about, everybody doing their job, and getting things done. And I mean, so really, yeah, like every day in its own way was the best day. I mean, for me as an actor, my favorite scenes were the one I mentioned, the timeout with RA, and then the penalty box where Proton's trying to keep me from going to get my phone when I'm playing after I play the song, you know. That was the most fun scene to shoot for sure.
Well, I have 2 teenage children, and
Okay.
sometimes when they're sitting all day on TikTok, what I like to remind them is I have this theory, and this is just me and my stupid dad theories, but that you can kind of break up our world now into 2 people because of technology and how much content is fed basically all day, every day. That the world can be, I look at the world as there's creators and consumers.
Hmm.
I tell them that it's much more rewarding to be on the creator side because the money is needed, the money is nice, but there's such a satisfaction to creation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you feel that same way or if that hit you at all through this process.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. I hadn't thought about it exactly from that perspective, but just creating things feels good, even if you have a small audience. You know, it's like there's people out there that have told me that they love this movie, even if whether that's 5 people or 1,000 people. That feels awesome that we impacted people in that way, and that all this passion and effort and energy we put into something could impact people. And I mean, I'm certainly a heavy consumer of media as well, and
Everybody is, yeah.
and to me, like, that's what I love about narratives is like, just they can really make you feel everything. You know, they can make you feel the range of feelings, and to know that we had any kind of impact on anyone just feels amazing. And like, we've had people come to us like, hey, I've been in a rough time in my life, and I just keep the movie on repeat, you know, when I'm doing things, because it like makes me happy. And you know, we wanted to make something that is a happy, fun watch, that isn't too controversial, that isn't political, that is just about, you know, being at the rink.
Mm-hmm. Well, where can people, if they missed it before, where can people check out the late game?
Yeah, so you can get all the info at thelategame.com and search The Late Game on Prime Video if you're in the US or the UK. That's currently available for rent and purchase. And as of September 10th, we will be available in Canada for rent and purchase on Apple TV. And we'll be adding some more platforms in the US. Definitely follow us at Late Game Movie on the various platforms. You know, we've got podcasts, we've got a bunch of other side content coming out. So just, you know, come hang out with us.
Well, congratulations on I love and respect entrepreneurship, and definitely if we could play even the tiniest part in helping you kind of introduce people to your movie. But it sounds like it's an incredible accomplishment and it's a years long. I mean, you know, the payoff takes years, and so I have respect for working that hard for that long in order
Thank
to
you.
get to a finished product. And welcome to the hobby. We're nice, and the more you buy, the more you're going to get sucked in. So I'm just warning you there.
Yep, I'm already on that path. I believe it. It's so much fun though, and I've met so many great people already. We're excited to dig deeper on it, and yeah, maybe we can host something together in Toronto.
That would be awesome. Would love to do that. Would love to work with you in any other way, especially in the US, because we're US based
Yeah.
too. And that's been one of the things that has been of keen interest to both Troy and myself is Canada's a religion, or hockey's a religion in Canada. You're born playing hockey. I think at baptisms they wear hockey jerseys, and so it's not as big of an issue there. But here in the U.S., I think I talked to you about this at trade night too. To me, I think the catalyst. It's a great time for the game. Number one, we have guys that we have the old guard and Crosby and Ovechkin that are still hanging on and producing. You have Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid at the height of their powers, and then you have a core crop of exciting young players like led by Connor Bedard. We have national TV hockey, which to anyone in the Canada probably sounds weird, but
Yeah.
but I think like my joke was it was on the Outdoor Channel for like
Yep,
5
Outdoor
years.
Life Network.
You couldn't watch a game. People in Canada don't realize that nobody ever gets to see Connor McDavid play hockey here,
Yeah.
which is weird because the NHL apparently doesn't want to promote their greatest player, which
Yeah.
interesting marketing decision there. And so I think going to both ESPN and TNT, both I think networks are doing good production. To me though, TNT and as a guy in entertainment would love your quick comments on this. I think putting Bisnet next to Wayne Gretzky is like the most brilliant production decision ever.
I love it. I love it. The plug next to the great one. And yeah, I mean, ESPN's done a solid job, but yeah, TNT has just been awesome. I love their cast of characters and they make them feel open and kind of at home, let them do their thing. Seems like Liam McHugh really drives that ship. And, you know, having talked to Biz about it, it sounds like it's an awesome place to work. Having Hank Lundqvist there from the goalie perspective is amazing. But number one, yeah, is the times you got Biz and Gretz there, they really rib at each other, and it's just crazy to like have their stats up next to each other.
I just want to see like Gretzky like squeam when Biz talks about like some like very R-rated concept right next to one of the more buttoned up people. And then to me, the second big catalyst for growth is, and you know, put your tinfoil hat on if you wish, but with Chicago getting the number 1 pick in the Bedard draft, it's in the United States. It's an original 6 team and it's in the central time zone. Could not be more perfect than that. And that creates a crazy opportunity. I've said this on my show. So my nephew is 9 years old, plays here in Minnesota on a AAA hockey team. And my brother's a coach on the team. And this was like this spring already. And first day of practice, they get all the kids out there and they're trying to do introductions or doing icebreaker sort of things. There's like 20 kids on the team or whatever the number is. And they went around. And one of the things they said, well, what's your name? What town are you from? Who's your favorite player? He said 15 out of 20 said Connor Bedard.
Wow.
It just shows you the impact of what the potential if he can actualize his his abilities that what it could do to grow the game.
There's a lot of pressure on this kid, and he seems like the type that lives up to pressure. But I mean, there's probably nowhere you see it more really than in the card community, right? Like he's blown out the hockey card community for better or worse, like changed it forever. And that was something I had on my note to bring up on my show with you, but certainly happy to talk about it here is like how you feel about how I mean, maybe you've talked about it in episodes I haven't gotten to yet, but how he's transformed the card industry in hockey.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's sort of he's the first post-pandemic star. And what you're starting to see for the first time in hockey are things that typically don't happen that happen in basketball, like with Zion Williamson when he blew up during the pandemic, or John Morant. And there just wasn't that, because that was a little bit after Austin Matthews and there wasn't quite that young rookie. And so we're seeing stuff like it's already, his Young Guns came out in March and it's the third most PSA 10s ever of any Young Guns. And so just some of these like real like macro kind of movements on him. And yeah, I mean, people are spending upwards of almost $30,000 now on a kit card and for a kid who's got 22 goals. So that's the thing, that the prospecting side of any sports hobby, hockey included, is there's a large, it's very speculative. It's like, you collecting or you quote unquote investing in Crosby is blue chip, right? You know, you're buying mutual funds. Bedard is the penny stock market, man. It's so wild. You can strike it rich or you can lose a lot of money.
Yeah, and I mean it's even harder to strike it rich now that everything shot up so early, right? So I mean, we'll see where it goes. I mean, the whole market could just continue to blow up, and I'm really excited to see what happens with other guys. I mean, obviously, like Macklin Celebrini is not necessarily expected to be as huge of a star as Bedard, but it'd be interesting to see how his stuff does.
You got him and Will Smith as well going over there, and yeah, there's just a lot of really kind of nuances to the hobby. Some things make sense, some things don't make sense. Like one of the things I could tell you about your team in the Avalanche is rarely, and actually the Avalanche is one of the maybe outlier examples. Typically there's one hobby star per team, rarely two, and never three. And that's why Mikko Rantanen has almost no hobby love because he's very much overshadowed by McKinnon and McCarr. And you look at Rantanen's production over the last few years, and you're like, why isn't this guy? Why aren't more people into his cards?
When McKinnon and McCarr was coming out of my mouth, like I felt disrespect towards Rantanen in my head, like because he's that good.
And the same exists on a lot of other teams, and even it's just that you're going to learn a whole bunch.
The Lightning
of
have got to be like that, right?
Oh yeah, we call it the Bermuda
stars.
Triangle of the hobby. Right, where that's what Florida is. All Florida teams. It's where and our other kind of quip around that is we have like a few weeks ago we did our Nobody Cares All-Star team, which are the best players in the NHL that have no hobby love, and Kucherov was very prominent on the team. It's guys like Kucherov and Roman Josi and Mikko Rantanen where their production very much outpaces the interest people have in the hobby. But we'll go all through that.
If you don't mind me going on for a second, like I'm curious if that, as someone relatively new to the hobby, is there a North American bias? Because the names you mentioned were mostly European, Russian.
No, maybe to some degree. There's been a lot of people will say that there's a Russian bias. Like Nikita Kucherov has a starkingly small hobby presence, and we're not even talking just values here. One of the things we look at, Jeff, is how many cards sell on the secondary market, because to us that's almost a better indication of how many people are chasing that player, how many people are collecting cards, even if they're and you would be shocked how little Nikita Kucherov cards sell every month. But the same thing was for Steven Stamkos. First ballot Hall of Famer, multiple Stanley Cup winner, 500 goals, and has almost no hobby market either.
It's crazy.
Canadian.
Yeah, Stamkos is definitely a great example, right? He's the good Canadian boy with the crazy stellar career, but he's also a quiet guy that I feel like hasn't minded being overshadowed down in Tampa. And now we'll see how he does in Nashville, right? That's another smaller market.
100%. Right. And what that points out too is we haven't talked about this as recently, but for a long time, especially when our show first started, we shared sort of our opinion that a problem that the NHL has in marketing is it was almost kind of took the baseball mentality. If you remember baseball, and it's changed in the last 15 years, but we don't put the names on the backs of the jersey. If you do anything other than keep a straight face when you hit a home run, we're going to throw 100-mile-an-hour fastball at your face the next time up. And so basically saying that there's no personalities. And I think that was a big part of the hockey culture too, right? Where you can never kind of outshine your team in any stretch. Otherwise, you're going to be in a fight. You're going to have some big guy from the other team saying, you're showing us up and I'm going to start pounding your face in. But now what we're seeing, especially in the last 2-3 years, where you love him or hate him, the Trevor Zegrases, the Jack Hughes, I was just thinking him. The Cutter Gauthier, right? Basically, sticking up the middle finger towards the Philadelphia Flyers. And you got guys that are not afraid to show even Bedard to some extent. You've got, who's the guy who's doing the gritty after celebrating?
Was that Wallman? Jake Wallman?
Yeah. I think so, from the Blackhawks, right?
He was on the Wings,
Red Wings,
and then
Red
he
Wings,
got traded to the Sharks.
Yeah. And you've got all these goalies now that you got Devin Levi, who does the Jedi. You've got Dustin Wolf, who jumps over the net, basically.
Swayman and Allmark doing their thing. Unfortunately, that's over, but
that's over. But I think the more that they're allowed to, and it was like Bryce Harper in baseball that really pushed that said, this is stupid. I don't care. Beat me if you want. If I hit a home run, I'm gonna, you don't want me to flip the bat, then don't give up the home run.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Yeah, that's been a long thing in hockey too, is like people talking about the personality not being able to come out because of the culture of hockey. And I agree. It's certainly started to open up more. And I mean, Ovechkin was like slowly, I feel like, opening that door over the years, but now you're really starting. The kids that grew up watching him are the ones that are like really tearing it down.
Yeah. And so I think those are all big opportunities and important opportunities that the league needs to take, and just the culture, and people need to understand that when you have Trevor Zegras score a Michigan goal, right? That is a clip that gets played hundreds of millions of times on social media. And I get the traditionalist side to it. I understand there's parts of tradition I love too. And I love the spirit of nobody's bigger than the team,
Yeah,
but you're cutting your nose to spite your face by not allowing
it's
these
so
guys to
true.
show their personality.
And it's even the same with people that complain about Zach's tricks, is like, oh, that's not hockey. Well, the fact is he's bringing a lot of new eyes to the sport, and that's what we should all want. We should want this game to grow. We should want our players to get, in my opinion, to get paid like they do in some of the other leagues, at least a little bit closer. I think it's great that, like what we've got guys like Matthews and McKinnon making, but it's nothing compared to what they have in baseball and football and basketball. And I'm not saying we're going to get to those numbers, but that's what it's going to take to, get these hockey guys up there. And I think that, it shouldn't be necessarily our goal as fans, but I think the growth of the sport is going to make it better.
Well, I think we've settled it. Between the late game and the Gong Show, we're going to grow the game of hockey in the U.S. And Gary Bettman can send us a Christmas card and thank us or whatever for that, a thank you card. So
Let's do it. Maybe Gary wants to come on the shows.
I doubt that, but well, hey, it was great to catch up with you again. Congratulations on the movie. Wish you all the success in promoting it, and let's hope we run into you at the Toronto Sport Card Expo. Thanks, Jeff.
Absolutely, Josh. Enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, we're back. Again, thank you to Jeff. Really, really appreciated his time. Super impressed, Louis. You were there for the interview that he could pull this off. I can't imagine what it's like to work for 4 years to try to make a movie.
Yeah, that's
That
one
would
of the
be-
notes. One of the notes I took down too. 4 years. Holy cow.
Again, got some great people that in it, like RA and Zach Bell. And I'm really looking forward to see how they do with this and what other maybe future projects that they're able to do. I also wanted to mention too, I already recorded an appearance on the Late Games podcast. And so I think early next week or middle next week, they said that'll be on in case, you don't get enough of me already, which how could you? But yeah, I know. What did you think of Jeff and his kind of experience making the movie, Louis?
I think Jeff is a great guy. The detail and how he selected who he wanted to be in this film and the people that he got to play, now that I've seen it too, the specific roles, he did a really good job making everybody fit their spot.
Did you ever play beer league hockey, Phil?
No, I didn't.
No desire. You played baseball, but you didn't want to play hockey?
Yeah, I'm really good at baseball. I'm very mediocre in hockey. I'm very mediocre. I like the physicality in hockey, but I mean, at my age, you can't just go around hitting people,
What about you, Louis? Did you play beer league ever?
I filled in a couple times, but not a lot.
Goalie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goalie.
Like a goalie.
Right.
Goalie.
I had to play D. My shifts are only good for about 30, 20 seconds, 15, 10.
That backwards crossover pivot
Yeah.
jamming you up.
A little bit.
All right, we're going to move on to new product releases. Today was a big day. We're recording on Wednesday, of course. Thursday for you, but the release of 2023-24 SPx got some instant reactions. Of course, every release day, I scurry off to the local card shop. Actually, I've had to call them a lot lately because they've had some like UPS driver issues where they don't get there. And I don't know if this has to be the distributors, but man, if I was a local card shop and it's release day and I don't have the product, I'd be furious.
Right.
And so I was glad that they had it today. Got a box, opened it for our Instagram series where again we track the ROI on hobby boxes. Also watched a number of breaks. We kind of alluded to that to try to get a feel for the quality of cards and what the designs and how people are reacting to them. In the 3 cases that I saw open by one breaker, there's 2 Bedard autos. And I can't remember how many. I think there's 18 boxes in a case or something like that. So if you're looking for, if you're chasing Bedard autos, there's a few more Bedard cards. Again, it's going to be hit or miss. Beyond that card design, and they look good, I think. This is an area where I give Upper Deck a lot of credit. In the past year, I really think the price being aside, and I don't know if you guys agree with this, but the design quality of the cards that are coming out in sets, I think has been really high. and that's an area where the Upper Deck has excelled. QC looks like it's pretty good. There's good feedback on that from people that less issues than last year. I kind of was struggling to recall last year's SPX, but I saw that a number of times. And here's like we alluded to this earlier. I think Louis, you brought it up. To some extent, yes, every box is gambling, but this is a pure gambler's box to me. It's like feast or famine. I don't know if there's a middle class that exists with this box. Again, you had mentioned it's like $36 a card here in the
Right.
US. And you're either going to get one big card that kind of saves the box, or you're going to take it on the chin, I think. And I don't know. And that's been a more of a theme too with 2023-24 products, right? I think that's where price impacts. It's so hard to get the value out of that box, but cards look good. And if SPX is your thing, I assume that people will like it. I don't
Hey,
know anything
so
that
yeah, you said you opened packs, right?
I opened up one box. Yeah.
One. Okay. So did you? I don't know how to say this. Did you just rip them, or did you feel the packs before you went into them? Know what I mean?
No,
Did
I mean
you?
it's one pack with
Okay.
5
Or
cards.
okay, one box, one pack. Did you? I heard
Did I?
people said you could rub the top of the pack and you could feel the patches or the autos
Oh,
through the
me, but the only way you can do that is if you open the sealed box.
And you get
right,
one pack per box.
right.
So,
So you open the box, you had the pack in your hand. They said you could feel the top of the pack and you could feel that patch auto if it was there, like the hits on the top.
but you have to open the
The
box.
hits. That is something that I'm glad you brought that up, because that's very unique, and I don't remember Upper Deck doing that, where the very first card fill is the hit.
That's different. You'd want to
And
put it in the middle, eh?
yeah, they put it in the middle to protect it a little
Mhm.
bit. So I don't know if that's a collation issue that they had, but to your point, Louis, I'm sure yes, you could feel the patch, but you've already opened the box at
Right.
that point, so
Yeah.
it's not going to change
True.
anything. And honestly, why I picked the box I did, because so the card shop we go to, and Louis lives in our town, so Absolute. They have, like most card shops, they have all their products on shelves behind their register and their cases to, create a little barrier so people can't just go grab boxes. And because I don't even know why I do this. I never get anything good anyways. I'm like, can I go back and pick my box? And they had the full case sort of lined up. I go to reach a middle box, and what do? I knock about 70 boxes off the shelf.
And you fell down.
No, I didn't fall down, but I
Well,
just
that's
felt
good.
stupid.
That's good.
And so I thought, well, as an omen, I should probably knock the SPX, or pick the SPX box that I knocked off the shelf, and then a little bit too to feel better in case the cards got damaged, so that at least I would be getting them and not leaving them to somebody else. But yeah, I thought maybe I'll do like a magnanimous thing and be rewarded for it. No, not
Bupkis?
really.
Nothing.
No. Yeah.
What's the big hit in SPX, anyways?
Probably the black, the lustrous.
Oh yeah, I know that card.
Yeah. And there's some obsidian cards in too. It's kind of
Obsidian.
a little bit like ice in a way, where weirdly, like the most desirable hits are not part of the brand of the box. It's those extra sets that are in there. So I don't really know what to say about SPX. I mean, it's kind of, it's like, I don't.
Can someone? I'd like to start doing this. We're talking about SPX. Can someone who's listening, who is a SPX, like, is anyone listening and SPX is your favorite set? Can you email Josh and Troy or DM them? I'm very curious to see, is SPX your favorite set? And then next time we talk about artifacts, I want someone to say, is artifacts your. So
Yeah.
has someone been waiting all year for this set? There's got to be people out there. There has
Like,
to
how
be,
many
right?
people would be devastated if SPX went away?
Yes, let's meet those people. Let's talk to them. I want to talk to them. Because, like, what are they? Are they set collectors? Are they? I'd love to get a census of who buys what.
And then last thing I want to talk about in new product releases is got an update from Upper Deck today on the release calendar a little bit. So the changes here are with SPX out this week. Originally, CHL was supposed to be released this week too. It's coming out next week on August 14th. You look devastated, Phil. I'm sorry you have to wait another week for.
No, I was yawning. I'm sorry.
Well, ouch. Then we have 2023-24 credentials on the August 21st. The checklist is actually out. We got that from Upper Deck today. So we'll break that down on Monday's show.
Nice.
Again, that's a big rookie auto product. There's really no patches. So you're going to be looking for those debut access cards or debut ticket, whatever they're called. I can't remember the Panini versus Upper Deck right now. We've talked about the next set then will be already 2024-25 MVP on the 28th. Again, for more season collectors, it's not a set you buy, but it is the signal, and it is a milestone that we're on to a new release year. And so that's coming. And then the one new set added to the upcoming releases is 2023-24 Ice, which will come out on September 5th. So, Phil,
Ooh.
we're going to have more exquisite patch autos for you to choose.
Yeah. Imagine a big Blackhawks Bedard there. Woo.
You're going to go that big?
Well, I'm not going to. I have to get my Gretzky exquisite before I get my Bedard, right? If I get in a pack, great. I'd sell that pretty fast. If that would change my life pretty good.
I would buy a Gretzky before Bedard.
Yeah, absolutely. No brainer there. I'm excited about credentials. I like credentials. I'm saying it. I like it.
Yeah. I do too. It's just 2022 was kind of a disaster with the. Is that the one where none of the rookies had autos? No, that was 2021, and then 2022 just had the weak rookie class. So, like everything, it'll be a Bedard product, so the price will be crazy. But I do like a lot of the parallels. Like if you go back and I think some really underrated rookie autos would be like Jack Hughes or Makar from 2019.
Yeah, good call.
Those
I'm
are
gonna
sharp looking cards.
They're all sharp cards. They're very clean. I think either you like it or you don't. I'm really liking credentials.
All righty. Got to make a mention for Gongshow partner and sponsor Slab Sharks. Of course, we're thankful for their support of our show. Now we're just around the corner.
Slab
guys.
Sharks, buddy.
Oh, Fanatics Collect. Did I say Slab Sharks?
Good.
Freudian slip. Freudian slip. What does that mean?
Freudian slip?
Do I have mother issues? What does that mean? I don't know. Fanatics. Our good friends at Fanatics are sponsor our show. We're grateful for them too. And we're just around the corner from Fanatics Fest. It'd be weird if it was Slab Sharks throwing Fanatics Fest. No, it's Fanatics Fest on August 16th through the 18th in New York City at the Javits Center. We talked about some of the athletes available to meet and greet and get some cards signed from them on our last show, like Austin Matthews. You ever heard of him, Phil? Austin Matthews?
No, I've heard of Austin Tissues.
Ooh. You could get the Austin Matthews Ty Domi dual card auto, Phil.
Oh.
How exciting for you would that be? Then there's a whole host of Rangers legends like Mike Richter, Henrik Lundqvist, new legend, what do they call Rempe? The something with the
Matt
Eiffel Tower. No, he's got some sort of nickname.
He's crazy, man. He's such a nice
the
guy.
Empire State Building.
Why do they call him that? Because he's a big boy?
I don't know.
Oh.
Somebody will message us.
Great with the fans. I saw him. So many kids were like, autograph. He signed everybody. It seems good. Be a good ambassador for the NHL.
At Fanatics Fest, there's going to be some NHL interactive opportunities as well. So there's going to be like a target practice and accuracy challenge. Okay, so now between the three of us, if we were at a rink and we had saucers that we were shooting at, who do you think would win the accuracy challenge?
Not me.
Louis, you're gonna.
I'm in.
Yeah, you got soft hands, isotoner. Hey,
you wasted no time. That was very confident of you, Louis.
Yeah.
Way to go. Very impressive. All right.
We'll try play nets.
Ooh.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That'll be fun.
Troy, what people don't understand about Troy, and he's not here, so we can talk about him, right?
Yeah, let's talk.
Troy's a very good athlete.
Yeah. Baseball, right?
Very good Division I baseball player.
That's
Phil.
Crazy. Why didn't we play catch last time we're at the Chateau Gongshow? I brought my glove.
You could have charged like $400 like Reggie Jackson. Remember, like you could pay $400 to play catch with. Was that who it was at the expo?
I'm pretty sure it was Reggie Jackson. Yes. I would pay that for bonds.
So you can do target practice. There's a VR experience in the NHL. You can tour the Hall of Fame through VR, also an NHL arena. And then there's also going to be vendors and card table set up too. We didn't mention that as well. I'm starting to feel some major FOMO, guys. Like,
Oh,
really
I
wanna
wish I
go.
was there, man. I'd give anything to go. I would love to go to this. I would absolutely love to go to this.
Is this something you would desire to go to, Louis, or not really?
Yeah, I'd go for the
Alright, sweet.
experience. I mean, I don't even know, wouldn't even know what to expect.
Phil's got 50 racks, so let's just go there. Yeah.
Troy, I don't think Troy would want to go. He'd be like, I'll be in the corner at the hotel.
No. Yeah, he wants to go, and then he gets
Okay.
weird about people. So keep up on with the latest on Fanatics Fest. You can check out their website, fanaticsevents.com. Remember too, the August Fanatics Collect Premier Auction starts tonight. Louis, try to keep your spending under 100,000 this month, please. I know it's hard.
I will do that.
Can't wait to see what Grail cards available, but it's a pool though that I gotta admit I don't swim in too often. I'm much more of a Fanatics Collect Weekly Auction kind of a guy. And the great news, of course, is the current weekly auction is live. We've all picked out 2 favorites to share and talk about. Switched it up a little bit with Troy God. So I'm going to start. I'm going to pick my 2 favesies and cards I really love. I picked out this week. So the first one, guys, is this 2010-11 The Cup Alexander Ovechkin limited logos out of 50. It's raw, but has the NBA authentication. I don't have any OV patch cards, and I want one. And this might
It's
be
a nice one.
near the top of the list for any non-rookie one that I would consider. Card looks to be in decent enough shape. I don't think you expect a gem mint for a limited logos card. There are some slight corner and edge issues that you can see on the heat map. Very underrated feature. So Louis showing right now. Here's sort of that kind of. I love how Fanatics does this.
What
where
is this? What is this?
So with every card in the auction, they do a heat map and they tell you where there's issues. So as you're examining the card and if you want to buy it or not, you can, like, you see like the lower corner issue. So they're saying, go back to the heat map real quick, Louis, that there's issues in the top right and left corners and bottom left corner. And then they do one on the back too.
Interesting.
Yeah, just it's a great area of transparency,
Mhm.
right? So that they're trying to make sure that you see exactly the condition of the card. The patch is amazing.
Yeah, it is.
3 color. Looks like the top of the stick, doesn't it? Am I wrong there? It would have to be either the L or the top of the stick, right?
I don't think they put patches
was-
on hockey sticks. Oh, the stick
in the Capitals logo. You see
yes,
the Capitals
sir.
logo.
I understand.
All right. I'm sorry. I was not descriptive enough there.
That's okay.
I don't know where it's from, but it's a cool patch.
Beautiful.
It's probably
card,
the.
though.
Yeah. Now, one thing about limited logos that's pretty awesome, especially for non-rookies, is, well, first of all, they're numbered to 50, as we know, but the patches are game used. And the rookie limited logos are like photo shoot or player worn. And I'm actually I think my mindset's changing where I'm valuing less the rookie and more like the cards like this where you get that game used patch. To me, that's just becoming more and more important. Am I crazy?
No, I'm
No.
right with you. Right with you.
Are you guys fans of limited logos? Is it a card that speaks to you?
Yeah, the prices are always pretty reasonable, and
They are.
there's big collectors out there, and that is a beautiful, beautiful card. Where's his hockey stick? In the
Oh, I
picture.
don't know.
Yeah, he's
I don't
not
know.
holding a hockey stick.
You don't need one if you're Ovi.
True.
Now, I know Troy's opinion on this, but I don't think I've gotten both you Yahoos to chime in yet. So as of right now, Ovi 41 goals away from tying Wayne Gretzky, 42 from owning the goals record. Does he get the goals record this next season? Phil?
No.
Louis?
No.
Does he get it at some point? Phil?
No.
Really? Louis?
I want him to.
If he keeps playing, I think he can do it.
Wow, that was. Oh, you
Well,
mean if? Okay, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, sorry.
Hey,
He won't
hey,
score if he doesn't shoot.
this would have been a
That was another Baba Louie Hobby hot take.
I know what you meant, Louis. I'm sorry. That's
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sitting there thinking, what did I say? What was stupid there? All right.
Becoming to become. So
you're saying he's going to fall off the cliff, production-wise, right, Phil?
Yeah, he's not doing it. And I want him to. I have a patch auto now. I'm a OV collector. I want him to hit it, and I love OV.
You're
but
invested.
I'm invested financially and with my heart.
I saw a quote somewhere today that Ovechkin said, if the lockout and COVID wouldn't have messed things up, I'd have already beaten it.
100%. He missed a year and a half.
Right.
Do you guys know who Gord Downey is from the Tragically Hip?
No, they're Tragically Hip. They're like very big deal in Canada, but
Yeah.
not here, I don't think.
He has a really good quote too. Gord Downey said, "No one's interested in something you didn't do."
Ooh.
So
Prophetic.
come on, Ovi, do it.
Wow.
Do it.
All right, last sale, the 2010-11, the Cup, Alexander Ovechkin limited logos, $1,650 US on June 30th. Fanatics Weekly was a 2-color patch, so there you go. This one might go for a little bit more. All-time high, just $23.25 US on June 22nd. This is like where I really started to adjust my thinking on like the whole Bedard thing. Like how many Bedard Young Guns at some point we're going for more than a card like this? And it's
yeah, when you think
oh
of
my
it
God.
like that. Are you going for this, Josh? Is this something you're going to go for?
I don't know. You got to keep going to college in a few weeks. Current bid, Louis?
725 US dollars.
So 1,000 Canadian.
The next one is a card everybody knows, but I think this is a really nice copy. It's the 1966 Topps Hockey, of course, Bobby Orr, rookie PSA 5. Now, so much attention, and rightfully so, gets placed on the Gretzky rookie. We don't talk about probably the Orr rookie enough, even on our show. I think you can make the argument this is probably the second most iconic card in the entirety of the hockey hobby. Do you agree with that, Phil, or no?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah. That's a
What about you,
beautiful
Lou?
version. Wow.
I think it is too, but I also think that this set is one of them also.
Mm-hmm. Do either of you have an intention to own a copy of this card at some point?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Now, how many Bobby Orr rookies from 1966 Topps would you guys guess have been graded by PSA? Who wants to go first? How many copies have been graded? Don't everyone speak at once.
I don't know, man. I don't even have an educated.
Well, okay, so Bedard is 10,500 rookies already graded.
Yeah, I know that.
How many? Use that as your starting point. How many Bobby Orr rookies do you think have been graded?
2,500.
Good guess, Phil.
I don't think that. Oh, I don't even think that many. 1,500.
Oh, Phil, close. 1,407. You're good at these guessing games.
I'm
Phil.
good at guessing weight as well. I should have been in the circus. I can guess people's weight pretty good.
Well, that's it. That's all we have time for the show.
Yeah, Phil's
Right,
off the show.
No. Okay, so the PSA 5, though, has a population of 138, and there's 350 copies graded higher. Remember, there's only one PSA 9 and 0 PSA 10s. Not to date. Right?
How many fives, Josh? 135?
138.
Wow, I would have thought less than that for the price that. Wow, for the price that fetches, there's a lot of people doing a lot better than me out there.
Now, as I like to say all the time too, and I think I've learned, especially working with Jeremy Lee on so many vintage cards, is that it's eye appeal first and then grade second when evaluating vintage cards. And so that's why I wanted to pick this card and do a little bit of a poor man's eye appeal evaluation. So right off the gate, I think the thing that stands out the most about this card is the right to left centering. It looks like almost perfect. I mean, if it's not, it's really close. Now it is probably off a little bit top to bottom, where it's a little heavier on the bottom than the top. But I think on this card, though, it's so much more important to have that right to left centering than it is top to bottom, and it doesn't hurt the eye appeal as much as it would if it was like way off to the left or way off to the right or something like that.
Agreed.
I think the printing is good. The colors look rich. I can't find any noticeable print defects, like where you look for like a fisheye or something on the words printed on the card where they were like faded or fuzzy or anything like that. There's some slight wear on the left and right edges if you zoom in a lot. Again, you can look at those heat maps that Fanatics provides. And then, hey, listen, it's a PSA 5. So there's a tiny bit of corner issues. But when you think of like eye appeal, I really think that this is a card that you would look at and it wouldn't be nothing distracting. It would make you feel good. So I give it I'm a little bit surprised that it doesn't have the old like PWCC, or I don't know how Fanatics is rebranding it, that eye appeal rating. And you kind of already mentioned it, Phil. It seems um, eye appeal wise a really nice card, doesn't it? For a 5.
If I was a bigger cowboy with a bigger bank account, I'd buy this, crack it, and sell it raw. Under the guise you could get a 7 for this. You might, and you might. It's a beautiful, beautiful copy. Really nice.
I'd put it in my PC. What do you think, Louis? Do you like the condition of this one?
I think it looks really good. Yep, can't disagree with it.
Now, one of the things I would recommend with this card and any other of the vintage side is if it's one you're interested in, go on to, if you have a Market Movers or Card Ladder subscription or 130 point, Terapeak, whatever, and try to find other 5s and look those up and compare other copies to kind of make your own determination as to where this falls in the spectrum, because you're going to have some very nice PSA 5s and some pretty terrible ones too, from that eye appeal perspective, even if they meet the standards of that technical grade. And the last sale for 1966 Topps Bobby Orr PSA 5 was in May, sold for $6,550 US. Yeah, so they go, Phil, for a pretty penny. Check this one out. All-time high for PSA 5 last September. Not even pandemic. $18,600 US dollars.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah, I know, man. Big bucks, yeah.
But again, though, that speaks to the range that's why you can't buy a vintage card. So we shouldn't buy any card, but especially vintage, solely based on the number on the slab. Not a good idea. All right, Louis. Oh, wait. What's the current bid, Louis?
$5,250.
Yeah, so it's already more than the last sale. You picked out a couple you like, Louis?
I did. First one is this 82. Well, we're showing an 82-83 OPG Wayne Gretzky graded by SGC in a 3.5. Reason I picked this card was, one, it's one of the Gretzky's I really like. I would own a copy of this if I could. At the price it's going for, I could own this one. But I don't know about you guys. I think it looks better than a 3.5.
Yeah.
Agreed, yeah.
You know, at worst, it's off-center left to right. And it has, unless it's my eyes, a minor tilt to it.
It does.
A little bit, yeah. A little fat in the butt at the bottom left there.
There's some surface issues up by his helmet. In the middle of the card, I zoomed in on this before. It looks right there. See, this looks like case, not card issue.
Yeah, that could be. It's always hard when you're trying to buy cards online and that are slabbed as to is it a scratch on the plastic?
Right.
Looks like belly button lint.
Look like a piece of hair here. The edges, I think, are your standard dull blade cut, right? Wouldn't you say, from OPG?
Yeah, you'd want a little bit of that rough cut.
Right.
Yeah, looks good.
That's one thing I liked about it. I looked at SGC's grading scale and what a 5 standard is, and it says 80-20 or better centering, minor rounding or fuzzing of the corners. I don't think they're rounded or fuzzed. They're cut the way it was cut. It says a crease may exist on one side of the card. There's no creasing in this card. Gloss may be lost from surface with some scratching that does not detract from the aesthetics of the card. I'm thinking this one, buy the card, not the grade. 4, 5, 4.5.
Do you like the card for your collection though, regardless of the grade?
If I was, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't. The centering bothers me.
When it comes to vintage, I think that's really key. It's what
you like,
what distracts you versus what you can live with, right? Some people are crisp corners guys and don't care about centering. Other people are worry or that they focus on centering. So you as a centering guy, Phil, this would probably not be one for you.
Yeah.
Now, okay, go back though. Let me change what my answer was. No, I wouldn't buy it simply because I see it's tilted, and that's probably the biggest thing that drives me nuts on cards.
See, that doesn't bother me at all. A little bit, but this tilt would not bother me to the point of not buying it if it was centered.
Should we mention too, for people that aren't familiar with what tilt is, that's when like you look at the border of a card and the space in between the edge of the card printing and like the white border in the case of the Gretzky is thicker on the top versus the bottom. It means that the card was not printed 100% straight up and down. Is that a good way to put this, or
Yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like I'm not explaining this?
No, that's good. Yeah.
All right, then cooking right along here. My next one is a 1988 Bowman's Best mirror image fusion atomic refractor Bure McCult
McCult.
out of 25. I only picked this just because I thought it looked sweet. For some reason, it caught my eye. I thought it was a great looking card. Oh, hey, back to the Gretzky. Current bid is $5.
Oh,
Ooh.
I thought this looked sweet, and then I wanted to touch on Josh. We talked in the last show. Oh, I didn't put the picture up. Never mind. We won't go to it. I did find there was an 88, 89 Bowman's Best box, but
ooh.
everything else was Bowman. So we're pulling those atomic refractors and all that stuff out of straight up Bowman. So like we talked, card graded a 9.5. It looks like a puzzle piece if you're just listening.
Yeah, it's a die cut.
Yep, it's a die cut.
It's one of those two-sided cards, right? Where you have a player on the
Bure on the
Bure.
front and McCult on the back. And then I noticed on the case itself, again, I complained about it before. I wish people would store stuff like this in a bag for a slabbed card, because I hate it when your slabs are all scratched up. And finally, current bid on this card is $115.
It'll be interesting to see what this one goes for, because they're a lot less desirable just because of the die cut than the base atomic refractors out of 100. And then they got like the weird thing of a player, you're not chasing McCult on this card, you're chasing Bure, but it is out of 25, and it has the atomic refractor look. And so even though it's 115, I'm sure it'll go for a lot more than that. All right, Phil, you have two cards. You picked out.
Manny Legacy. Yeah, I was kind of getting a little panicked. I forgot what I got. I love Manny Legacy. Yeah, so this isn't a special card by any means. It's a 0405 SP Authentic, and it's just a base card, but it's autographed. It's hard autoed, right? Was that what we would say by somebody else?
IP in person auto?
In person IP, in person auto, yeah. I just really like the card. I have a huge soft spot for Manny Legacy. I want to shout out to other Canadians. The 93 World Juniors was such a... Or 92 World Juniors was such an optimistic year because Lindros was in it and Legacy was a goalie, and we tanked. Nothing happened. But then in 1993, this guy right here stood on his head. We had no Lindros. We had Paul Kariya, though, and Jerome McGinley. And we won it all. And it was just such a... I don't know. It felt like it just brought a country together. It was absolutely phenomenal. And I know he didn't do much for Detroit. And I know he played in Springfield or whatnot. Not much of an NHL career, but just big props to a great guy, good goalie. And I would buy this card. I would actually buy this card, even though I do not like the autograph on it.
Want to take a guess at the current bid?
Couple of bucks.
$7.
Ah, there you go. Add 5.
Well, I think the advantage, too, of having it slabbed here is that the autograph's authenticated, so you don't have to worry about... I don't know how many people are faking Manny Legacy autos. But
yeah.
You get that comfort.
Yeah, that doesn't... I'm not the biggest. You know what I would love? I would love all these big grading companies, side note, to showcase their graders and authenticators on their website. Here's Bill. Bill's got 32 years of authenticating autographs, and Bill can go, "Hi, I'm Bill." And then, like, make them little rock stars. Put them on the website. I want to see who's grading my stuff. All right, next card. Oh, McDavid. Yeah, I'm on a big McDavid kick because I have a card now. So I really like this card. It's a draft pick card, 2015. Upper Deck. It's Connor McDavid draft pick. I wish it was raw, but it's in a PSA 10. The red border actually looks nice with the blue border of the Oilers. Just a nice looking card. What's it going for?
$94.
Not bad. Yeah, I would want to.
When you think of this in the context of the Bedard SP1, it is kind of crazy, and maybe there's a lesson in there that we all kind of knew, right? When people were spending $12,000 on that card, that here you have a very similar, it's even got like that throwback design, and it's probably it'll go up, but this isn't a $10,000 card by any stretch.
And it's so off center. It's extremely off center.
I think PSA is like 90-10 or something. No, like
70-30.
70-30 or something like that.
Well, that's
64.
70-30. That's 70-30.
I screwed up there. It's not that. It's what is it? 55-45 it can be, I think, to be a PSA 10.
Well, we could look at the card right now. That's definitely not 55-45. That's far exceeding.
Yeah.
Boundaries.
Well, you can bid on these.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you can bid on these 6 cards and all the other hockey cards available in the current Fanatics Collect Weekly Auction, of course, at fanaticscollect.com. All right, personal pickups. So we're gonna start with Phil, and Phil, you basically sent one picture that has everything in it. You bought everything.
Yes.
We had a show 2 days ago. What are you doing?
I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. But this is awesome. This is from Burray McDavid, Damien, on Instagram. Hey, man. And I only really wanted the Bobby Orr. And, you know, I'm not one to be like, break it up. Come on, break it up. I can't stand that. So I asked once. Actually, I don't even think I asked them once. I usually ask once to break up the deal. They say no. I say, okay, I'll buy it everything if I really want the card. So I got these exquisites. You're missing Doug Wilson. I just didn't put him in the picture. Sorry, Doug. And I really just wanted the Bobby Orr. So everything else is pretty much for sale except the Bobby Smith.
What?
And then except the Bobby Smith.
What?
Except the Bobby Smith. And then the Mario Lemieux I got from John's CBJ High Gloss on Instagram. He was at the National. You met up with him, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So he went there. He sent me a picture. He said, do you want it? I said, yes. And I said, the price is good. He said, no. Let me get it cheaper for you. And he actually got $100 off. So it was good. Yeah.
And now, because we're an audio show, you got to describe the cards.
Oh, I'm so sorry, audio, the good listener. I'm so sorry. So what you're looking at is 5 pictures of the LeBron design of Exquisite from 03-04. But what we have is we have Daryl Sittler, Dominic Hasek, Mike Richter, Bobby Smith, and Bobby Orr, the big one. And then the 6th card I showed was the card I was just talking about from John, who bought it at the National. It's a Parkhurst Legends Champion game used patch, but it's all black. And it has Mario Lemieux's loop-de-loop beautiful autograph on a beautiful Parkhurst Legend card.
So what's your Bobby Smith attachment?
I love Bobby. He's my favorite player growing up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a closet Habs fan, man. Yeah. Vive la Quebec. Yeah, I love it, man. I don't love the Habs. I love my Sens, but I'm a closet Habs fan, of course. Yeah, grew up loving them. Larry Robinson, big fan of Larry Robinson too.
Louis, you had some personal pickups.
I did. I grabbed one, which is the 2017-2018 The Cup Devin Dubnyk and Mikhail Granlund dual signature patches out of 35. Just something thrown to the PC. The autos were pretty dang good, and the patches were pretty sweet. If they were just napkin, I would have probably passed on this, but the Cup did a good job getting some great patches in there.
Great card, Louis. Really nice pickup.
Were you more of a Dubnyk guy or a Granlund guy?
Dubnyk. I got a handful of his autos. I like Dubnyk. Dubnyk was a great. I think he was a solid goaltender for us
for 1 year.
No. I mean, from 15-16 season to 2018-2019, he averaged 65 games in those 4 years for us. That's huge.
Did you guys do that at home games? Dubnyk?
Sure did.
Yeah, so we have Zoob on our team, and we do that too. Zoob. Yeah,
Zoob and Doob.
He thought we were booing him. He thought we were booing him, though, when he first came on the team, and we had to tell him, no, they're flattering you. Russians, they're funny.
All right, we made it. If you like the episode, please leave a rated review on Apple, Spotify, whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Like and subscribe. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
If you love the show, you want to support us, want to chat with us on the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our $1.99 support level tier on Patreon. Link is in the show description. In our Instagram, TikTok profile, go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, click on the Become a Patreon link, or go to the Patreon website, patreon.com, and search for Hockey Cards Gongshow. Guess what, guys? We're on social media. We're hip, right? Yeah, we're hip. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. And boys, the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast is a production of Dogbox Ventures, LLC. Have fun at baseball, Phil. See you, Louie. And Troy will be back on Monday, and we'll see if there's still a show.
Bye.